Are we all so excited? I hope so. I am. Are you? No. I'm never excited about Higurashi. I'm probably not even going to see many of my friends for a while because, like, we're in the 70s. They're all babies. We're playing as an adult man who's a police officer. We'll get started soon. We got a Wishi. Not yet, but yeah, we will. That's not enough, man. I can't be sustained off Uishi. When was the first Higurashi stream? I'm gonna go check. 2 years ago. What day? May 9th. Ugh. This is gonna be the longest series ever. I'm gonna be 70 by the time we finish. We're chipping away at it though. Once I do finish Higurashi, that's gonna feel so crazy. Let's just get started though. Continue. We stopped suddenly last time because I was very tired, which I hope doesn't happen again. Alright. Sorry, my throat's weird. Shibone City was, as far as provincial cities went, rather behind the times. Okinomiya, recessed in the mountains, was even more remote. With little change between the seasons, all that was left was the tepid passage of time. It made for a rather drab town. Maybe tie up Ryan and make him read it. Whenever I'm hanging out with Bailey, if there's anything that's even, like, vaguely related to Higurashi, as in, like, it's something that happens in Higurashi, I will say, this happens in Higurashi, you know. It could be something so, like, unspecific. We were watching Doctor Who, and there's a scene where the doctor picks up a shovel and starts digging a hole in the ground to dig something up. And I said, this happens in Higurashi, you know. And then I won't elaborate on, like, what specifically I mean. Because sometimes I do mean something very specific, and sometimes I do just mean something general to make it look like everything happens in this game. There were no tourist attractions or local delicacies. How does she react to that? She always just asks, what happens in that game? And I say, I can't tell you. Without even a strong regional industry, it was simply dull. Just looking at the monotonous and peaceful townscape, it was hard to catch a glimpse of the radical resistance of the Onikafuchi Guardians. The atmosphere of boredom didn't hint of the Okinomiya police station being on the front lines of the dam conflict, nor of the numerous incidents that I heard about at the prefectural headquarters. Good morning. Are you here to pay a fine?
Yeah. 公安部の本田屋さんにアポイントがあります。
No, I have an appointment with Hondaya-san from the Public Safety Division.
赤坂とお伝えください。
Please tell him it's Akasaka.
失礼しました。少々お待ちください。
My apologies. Please wait a minute. The clerk, who thought that I was here for a parking violation at first glance, after fumbling with the unfamiliar extension number, told the person on the line they had a visitor.
どうもどうも。
Welcome, welcome.
赤坂さんでいらっしゃいますか？遠路はるばるお疲れ様でした。
Akasaka-san, was it? Must have been tiring traveling out all this way.
こんな部屋で申し訳ありませんね。応接室を押さえてあったんですがね。
Sorry we have to do this here. I tried to reserve a reception room, you see.
議員さんが突然お越しになっちゃったんで追い出されちゃいまして。
But the counselor suddenly woke up and chased me out. I would hesitate to call what we were a conference room, as it was very small and cluttered. The cramped space was packed with lockers, with the impression there was more of a change room than that doubled as one for smoking. Listening to his crude chortles, I didn't get much of a feeling that Hondaya, who was head of the local public safety division, was much of an intellectual. But I knew that in exchange, he had both experience and absolute confidence in his instincts.
ご多忙中、突然お邪魔して申し訳ありませんでした。
I apologize for interrupting you during such a busy time.
警視庁から参りました。赤坂と申します。
I'm Akasaka from the Metropolitan Police Department.
よろしくお願いします。
Pleased to make your acquaintance.
公安部の本田屋です。
Hyundai from the Public Safety Division.
よろしくよろしく。
Nice to meet you.
県警防隊の3階部長から協力を惜しむなと脅されておりますので。
I was threatened by Sunkai from the prefectural gangbusters to be generous with my cooperation.
防隊
Gangbusters?
県警の暴力団対策本部ですか？
You mean the prefectural crime prevention division?
うちじゃ鬼ヶ淵支所の連中は暴力団の延長に位置づけてますんでね。
You see, we're treating the Onigafuchi Guardians as an extension of the local Yakuza.
あれを善意の住民運動だなんてあんた、東城もいいとこですわ。
You have to be a newbie if you think they're just a residential protest group. They said at the prefectural office, too, that the Onikafuchi Guardians was linked to the local mob. If I recall correctly, the adopted son of somebody influential was a lieutenant in that gang.
そりゃ逆。
It's the other way around.
全然逆ですよ。暴力団の活動があって、それに住民団体が大義名分みたいにくっついていると、そういうふうに考えてください。
Complete opposite. The Yakuza put up the protest group as a front to justify their actions. Just think of it like that.
逆逆。
Completely the other way around. Okay. Andaya was just about rolling with laughter. This was slightly different than the info given to me at the prefectural office, but somebody embedded locally would be more knowledgeable. While we were talking, occasionally some people who seemed to be detectives would come in and change. One of those individuals, noticing Hondaya's guffaws, came up to us. Hello!
話をしてるかと思えば
Stop laughing, Chuddy. I was wondering what you guys were talking about. Hey, man.
おお、クラちゃん。
Oh, Kura-chan.
ちょうどよかった。クラちゃんも入ってよ。
Perfect timing. Why don't you join us?
こちら、はるばる東京の警視庁からお見えになった赤坂警部。
This here is Inspector Akasaka, who came all the way from the Tokyo Police Department.
警部だなんて。
An inspector?
まだまだ新米です。
I'm still a rookie. Uishi theme? I noticed. Noticed? I noticed that this song was new. I was trying to say new and noticed. The song is new. It sounds nice. Feels Ace Attorney to me.
赤坂です。よろしくお願いします。
My name is Akasaka. Pleased to meet you.
初々しいのがいいですね
Must be nice to be so fresh-faced.
採用は今年ですか
Did they hire you this year?
うん
Couldn't help but think I was being ridiculed, so I only responded with a forced smile. I could tell that this new person was like Hondaya, the type who had confidence in their instincts and experience. I really didn't like those types of people.
赤坂さんにもご紹介します。
Let me introduce you, Akasaka-san.
こちらは刑事部の大石君。
This is Uishu-kun from our investigative department.
赤坂さんがお問い合わせの S 号の件なら彼が詳しいです。
Regarding the S file you were asking about, he's familiar with it.
S 号
S file?
園崎の S
S for Sonozaki.
S 号ってのはですね園崎家が関連している件を示すまあ暗号みたいなもんなんです
If something is an S file, it means it has something to do with the Sonozaki family. It's something of a code name. Sonozaki. Come to think of it, I remembered when I was poring over the documents at headquarters. There were quite a few people with the last name Sonozaki popping up.
確か園崎氏は鬼ヶ淵自主同盟の役員でしたね。
I remember right, there's a Sonozaki who's one of the executives of the Onikafuchi Guardians.
確か会計だったと思います。
Pretty sure they're the treasurer. Two of them were surprised when I rattled off what post that Sonozaki held. After a moment, both of them erupted into laughter.
赤坂さんでしたっけ
Akasaka-san, was it?
あなたお勉強家さんですね
You're quite the studious one.
ひょっとして同盟の連中の主要人物全部暗記してるんじゃ
Could it be you've memorized all the central figures in the Alliance?
暗記というほどではありませんが、一応鬼ヶ淵自主同盟の幹部リストは一読しました。
I wouldn't say memorized exactly, but I've at least read the list of Onikafuchi Guardians executives.
じゃあ会長と副会長は
Then who are the president and vice president?
会長は現ひなみ沢村村長の君吉喜一郎氏。
President is the mayor of Hinamizawa, Kichiro Kimiyoshi.
副会長は町会神社部長の古出氏。
The vice president is the priest of the local shrine, Furude.
会計が園崎を領して、会計監査は牧野氏。
Treasurer is Oryu Sonozaki. The auditor is Makino.
教頭部長が君吉義郎氏。広報部長が園崎貞夫氏。
The liaison is Yoshiroshi Kimiyoshi. Yoshiroshi. PR head is Sadeo Sonozaki.
赤坂さん、あなたなかなかやりますね。
Akasaka-san, you're pretty good.
給料安いけど、うちに来ません？
The pay sucks, but you want to work here?
うちに一番必要で、一番いないタイプですよ。
Usually the type we're looking for.
で、ちなみに園崎貞夫は青年部長なんです。
By the way, Sadeo Sonozaki is head of the youth department.
惜しいですね。広報部長は園崎忠孝。
So close. The head of public relations is actually Tadataka Sonozaki. Feeling like I wasn't being complimented at all, I started settling into an uncomfortable mood. However, I was becoming more and more aware that I was the weakest link in this investigation, so I just had to bear with it. I didn't mean for that feeling to show up on my face, but the crafty detectives didn't let that slip by.
バカにしたつもりはないんです。
I didn't mean to make fun of you.
お詫びと言っちゃなんですが、なんでしたら村を実際にご案内しましょう。
To make up for it, why don't I show you around the village? Somebody with no feeler for the area like me would be a great help. I couldn't have asked for more.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟ってのは、結局ひなみ沢村の対外的な別称に過ぎません。
In the end, the Onigafuchi Guardians is nothing more than an alias Hinamizawa is using to deal with the outside world.
村を知ることがあなたのお仕事の近道だと思いますよ。
I think getting to know the village would speed up your work.
いかがです？
How about it? The residential movement, in other words, held influence over the whole region. So the leader of the movement was the leader of that influence. Just like that, the thought processes in the region would become the overall personality of the movement. Just like Uishi had said, in order to learn what they were really like, this regional force behind the dam protests, getting to know the village was the quickest way.
よろしくお願いします。
If you would. Nodding back without skipping a beat, Uishi laughed in satisfaction and stood up. I took the information I learned at the prefectural office and from Hondaya to heart. My position was exposed, my personal safety was at risk. The opponent was an extremist group that had no qualms while using threats or violence against somebody. If my personal info was leaked, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that I'd be in danger, whether on the job or not. Thinking that, I felt a little nervous.
連中は顔覚えるの早いですからね。
These guys are quick to remember faces.
私と一緒にいるところを見られると多分いろいろあなたのお仕事に差し支えると思います。
If you're seen with me, they'll probably do a lot to hinder your work.
月並みですがね、こいつを身につけておいてください。
This might be a little cliche, but put these on. Uishi handed me an incredibly suspicious disguise, comprised of a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a mask. I didn't want to get all hot and stuffy, but Uishi's warning was probably right on the money. Considering that, I put them on with appreciation. It looked so suspicious that Uishi had to smile wryly.
どこまで話しましたかね。
How much did I tell you again? Let's see.
御三家という旧家が村を支配しているというところまでです。
So the part where you were talking about how these three ancient families control the village. The Onigafuji Guardians was the same as the village of Hinamizawa itself. Meaning there's a direct correlation between being an executive in the Alliance and being a leader in the village, as Handai had told me a short time ago. The village was ruled by three ancient families. It mean the Onigafuji Guardians was ruled by those same three families.
県警の資料には何て書いてありました？
What do the documents at the prefectural office say?
死守同盟のリーダー格とかそういうことについて。
About the leader of the Guardians or whatnot. The documents I was using were classified. If I responded to Uishi's question, it'd be a breach of security. However, most likely, this man I judged was more well versed in the situation than any of the documents at the prefectural police department, so I decided to answer him.
同盟の会長は現村長の君吉喜一郎と。
But the president of the Alliance is the current mayor of the village, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. Uishi, upon hearing that, let out a small chuckle. For him to ask like that, and to laugh at the answers that was recorded in the documents, meant that wasn't the case in reality.
では、君吉氏以外の影の人物がいるということですね。
So then, that means there's somebody else other than Kimiyoshi behind the scenes.
県警の持つ、いや、一般的な情報とは異なり。
Contrary to what the prefectural office thinks, or rather, which is commonly known.
君吉のじいさんなんてただのお飾りですよ。
Old man Kimiyoshi is nothing more than a figurehead.
そもそもこの村じゃ村長なんてポスト自体も形式だけなんです。
In the first place, the post of mayor in that village is nothing more than ceremonial.
つまり、同盟も村も本当の意味で支配している別の存在がいるということですね。
In other words, there's someone else in charge of both the Alliance and the village.
それが先ほどおっしゃられていた御三家という存在ですか。
Would that be the three families we just talked about?
まあそのあたりはこれからご説明します。
Well, I'll explain that part right now. All of a sudden, with a thunk, the car suddenly lurched. The paved road had given way to a gravel one. At the same time, the scenery outside the window changed. The Hinamizawa Dam project must be withdrawn. Overthrow the shameless puppet of a governor. The dam will submerge the natural beauty of Hinamizawa. Protect the village from the unethical dam. Fear the wrath of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Demolish the dam. Those involved must go away. Construction office must respond. Construction office manager must negotiate with us. Signs and banners crowded the roadside. Even reading the brush-scrawled words was daunting. It was as though where the road just changed was a border with a different country. At that moment, I was startled by the car suddenly braking. Looking ahead, a barricade had been erected. About 5 or 6 protesters, wearing masks and helmets to hide their faces, were blocking the road, yelling at us angrily to stop.
これは何ですか。
What is this?
検問
Checkpoint?
はあ、懲りない連中だな。
This guy's never learned. Uishi snorted as he rolled down the window and leaned out.
おいおいおい、あんたらダメだよ、こんなとこで道を塞いじゃ。
Hey, 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 you guys. You can't be blocking the road like this here. As Uishi glared at them with a malicious laugh, they visibly faltered.
道開けてくださいな。
Clear the way.
それじゃ通れないでしょ。
We can't get by like this. Who would have thought it was Uishi's car? That panicked thought seemed to make them lose their presence of mind.
大石刑事の車と分かってればこんなご無礼はしなかったんですがね。
Ah, if we had known it was your car, Detective Wush, we wouldn't have been so rude.
大石刑事、いつもの車はどうされました？
Detective, what happened to your usual car?
車検ですか？
Is it in for maintenance?
そんなところです。
Something like that.
台車ってのはどうにも馴染みませんね。
I just can't get used to this car they loaned me. Judging from the brief conversation, I could guess that they were familiar with the license plate of the car Uishi normally used. In other words, if they knew the car belonged to the police, they would have hidden the barricade. What they were doing was obviously obstruction of traffic. A blatant crime.
そっちの怪しい男は誰です？
Who's that suspicious guy?
あんた、顔を見せてくれませんか？
You, could you show us your face? The man glared at me menacingly. Wearing a mask and sunglasses made me look particularly dubious. Would not showing my face get me into some unnecessary trouble? I turned to Uishi to see what I should do.
彼の顔は勘弁してあげてください。
Give him a break.
まだまだ新米でシャイなんですからね。
Still a shy little rookie.
不審な輩じゃないか確認しようってだけです。
Just wanted to make sure he wasn't anybody suspicious.
最近のひなみさんは物騒ですからね。
Higurashi has been in a bit of a stir as of late.
あんたのうち鏡歪んでるのと違います？
Have you looked at yourself in the mirror?
あんたのその面の方がよっぽど不審ですよ。
The mask you're wearing is way more suspicious.
な
The men and Uishi continued to talk like that, feigning smiles at one another. However, from the beginning to the end, I couldn't get over the feeling I was sitting on a powder keg.
ゴミの不法投棄車両まだ減らないんですか？
Has the number of trucks illegally dumping still not decreased?
オタクたちも本当に朝晩大変ですね。
It's a real hassle dealing with it all the time.
警察の方にもご理解とご協力をいただけて助かりますよ。
If the police could understand and cooperate, it would really help. During that conversation, the barricade was moved, leaving a gap wide enough for a single car to get through. Uishi lightly honked the horn once and began to roll the car forward. I could see the men's antagonistic glares at the back of the car in the rearview mirror.
何ですかさっきのは。
What was that just now?
勝手に行動を封殺するなんて。
Blocking a public road like that.
もちろん犯罪ですよ。
Of course it's a crime.
目くじら立てても始まりませんがね。
Still, if you get worked up over that, it'll never end.
連中の主張じゃですね、村内に不法投棄をするトラックが出没するって言うんです。
Those guys, see, claim there's an infestation of trucks illegally dumping in the village.
それを封じ込めるために不審車両を検問してるって話だそうで。
Their story goes that in order to stop that, they're halting suspicious vehicles for inspection.
不法投棄？
Illegal dumping?
産廃を勝手に捨てようとする悪徳業者のことですか？
Like corrupt contractors just tossing industrial waste away?
警察が何の手も打たないから自分たちで自衛するっていう論法でしてね。
Their line of argument is that if the police aren't going to do anything about it, they'll take matters into their own hands.
まあ産廃なんて話はどうせ自演だからどうでもいいんですがね。
Well, the industrial waste is just something they're doing by themselves anyways.
自演？
Themselves?
連中うまい作戦なんですよ。
They have a pretty good strategy.
ダム現場にですね、工事妨害のために産廃ゴミを自分たちでばらまいてるんです。
You see, in order to hinder construction, they've spread industrial waste over by the dam site.
で、それを悪徳業者のせいってことにして臨検を設置すると。
Then, blaming it on corrupt contractors, they start instituting these inspections.
それで工事車両をいちいち足止めしてチクチクと妨害してるってわけなんです。
There, they stop every construction vehicle coming through and interfere with them as much as possible.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟の抵抗運動の一つというわけですね。
So then, it's one of the methods the Onikafuchi Guardians is using.
多分今の検問でこの車のナンバーが割れましたからね。
That inspection just now, this car's license plate has probably been recorded.
もうこの先には一切検問の真似事はないと思います。
Shouldn't get stopped from here on out.
連中も私を怒らせると得をしないことだけはよーく骨身に染みているようですからね。
Those guys know very well not to get me angry.
この車が工事関係車両だと知れるとですね。
See, rumor is that if they figure a car is related to the construction in some way,
散々検問で足止めを食らうばかりか、投石や鉄釘のばらまきなんかも食らうって噂です。
not only would there be checkpoints stopping it at every turn, but they'd be throwing rocks and planting road spikes as well.
あなたも身元が割れないようにせいぜい気をつけた方がいいですよ。
It's best you be careful so you're not identified.
公安なんてバレたらどんな目に遭うやら。
They find out you're from public safety, who knows what you'll suffer through. Uishi was acting like we were talking about something fun, but for me it was no laughing matter.
なるでどこぞの内戦の国に迷い込んだような錯覚です。
Almost feels like we've wandered into a civil war in the Middle East.
あんた、そりゃうまい言い方です。
That's a good way of putting it.
今言われたのはまさにその通り。
Pretty much just what you said. Uishi turned to me with a grin and menacing laugh.
ここはね、戦争地帯なんですよ。
You see, this here's a war zone. Car slowed down a bit as it went down a narrow road through some farmland.
あそこの森の中に家があるのが見えます？
You see that house in that forest over there?
古い感じの。
That antiquated one. Looking at where Uishi was pointing, there certainly was an old, traditionally designed house.
あれが村長の君吉のじいさんの家です。
That belonged to the mayor, old man Kimiyoshi.
君吉本家とも言いますな。
You could say it belongs to the main Kimiyoshi house as well.
分家筋が多いですから、
There's a lot of branches, but
御三家の一つにあたります。
it'd be one of the three families.
御三家
The three families.
ひなみ沢村を支配している旧家ですね。
The ancient families that control Hinamizawa.
そうそ
That's right.
う。で、もう一つが古出家。
And one of the others is the Furude family.
こっちは分家どころか、もう神主一家しか残ってませんがね。
Their house doesn't even have a single branch, as all that's left is the head priest's family.
ちょうどあっちの方にね、神社がありまして、
Right over there, there's the shrine.
そこの神主をしています。
He's the priest there.
ちなみにね、死守同盟の事務所はその神社の敷地内にあります。
By the way, the Guardian's office is on the grounds of that shrine. The office of the Onikafuchi Guardians. These guys were the enemy that would make the shrine their stronghold.
そこを見ることはできますか？
Can we go look over there?
神社は古出家の私有地でね、
The shrine is the Furude family's private property, you see.
警察といえど令状がないと踏み込めません。
Being police, we can't set foot there without a warrant.
電柱のバックには村の息のかかった議員もいますからね。
See, they've got a member of the Diet with ties to the village backing them up.
警察にも強いところと弱いところがあるってことです。
Basically, being the police has its strengths and weaknesses.
御三家とは言ってもですね、
Well, even when we talk about the three
そ
families,
りゃあだいぶ大昔のことなんだそうです。
that's something from a long time ago.
大昔はその御三家ってのは合議して村のいろいろなことを決めてたらしいですな。
Way back when, those three families used to hold councils to decide things about the village.
ということは今は違うということですね。
Meaning, it's different now?
あんたいちいち察しがいいですね。
You've got a pretty good nose.
さすが高学歴。
That's what I expect from an academic. The car braked to a halt with a squeal. Of where we were stopped were several signs. Private property beyond, no trespassing. Beware of poisonous snakes. Danger, turn back. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen. Signs were erected there with things like that written on them. The road was separated from the forest by a chain-link fence wrapped in barbed wire.
私有地なんで、ここまでです。
Since this is private property, this is as far as we go.
この先は監視カメラがいくつも仕掛けられてます。
There's several surveillance cameras set up further in.
うっかり道に迷いました。なんて論法が通じる相手じゃありませんからね。
Saying that we just got lost won't work with these guys.
この先がそうなんですね。
They're beyond here, right? The people currently controlling Hinamizawa and the Onikafuchi Guardians were neither the Kimiyoshi family nor the Furude family, but the last of the three.
ええ。
Yeah,
この先にあるのが御三家の一つ、園崎家。
beyond here is one of the three families, the Sonozaki family.
ひなみ沢村を影から支配する連中です。
They're the ones controlling Hinamizawa from the shadows. Among the list of executives recorded in the documents, the number of people with last names from the three families was quite high. Of course, Sonozaki was no exception. However, at the top was the Kimiyoshi family. The Kimiyoshi family seemed to be in charge. The rulers behind the scenes were the Sonozaki family. This double-layered structure implicitly told me that this village had both a light and a dark side.
園崎家の頂点は、現当主の園崎お涼っていうばあさんです。
The current head of the Sonozaki family is an old lady named Oryo.
園崎天皇なんて呼ばれるくらいに、その発言には影響力があるそうです。
She has enough clout that you could call her Empress Sonozaki.
気をつけてくださいよ。大物です。
Careful, she's no small fry.
市長だって最敬礼でお迎えするような VIP ですからね。
She's enough of a VIP that even the mayor of the city has to bow before her.
まあ、ひなみ沢と周辺の町に住む村の親族の数千の評伝を固めてるわけですから、政治家は頭上がらないんでしょうが。
Well, in Hinamizawa and the surrounding area, their relatives amount to a block of several thousand votes. No politician could show disrespect for that.
つまりその人物が鬼ヶ淵死守同盟の事実上のトップということですね。
In other words, that would make her the actual leader of the Onikafuchi Guardians, right?
そうなります。
You've got it. With those words, Uishi pulled out a well-worn cigarette box. Suspected kidnapping of the minister's grandchild and subsequent threats. Were these part of the hidden plot by the Onikafuchi Guardians in order to have the Hinamizawa Dam project cancelled?
あなた、東京からはるばる調べにいらしたんですよね。
You came all the way from Tokyo to investigate this, didn't you? Huh?
ええ、
Yeah,
そうですか。
that's right.
何か。
Something the matter?
じゃあほら、あれだ。
Ah, then.
犬飼大臣への直訴事件の絡みですかな。
Is it related to that direct appeal incident with Minister Inukai?
要するに、あれで要注意団体ってことで公安がマークすることになったと。
If that's the case, then public safety has them marked on a watch list.
そういう感じですか。
Something like that.
大石さんこそお察しが早くて助かります。
Having you guess that so quickly makes this easy. While exhaling out cigarette smoke, Uishi smiled broadly, like I just pulled a good one on him. So I thought. The smile disappeared suddenly.
嘘でしょ。
That's a lie, isn't it? Huh?
だから、直訴事件でマークがついたっての。
I mean, the direct appeal putting them on a watch list.
嘘でしょ。
It's a lie, isn't it? Uishi knew there was no way that Tokyo HQ would dispatch an investigator over something as minor as a direct appeal. they were to dispatch someone, it had to be for a more dire reason. He'd figured out as much. I thought of myself as the type of person who doesn't let things show on their face. In front of his watchful gaze, however, I felt that what I was thinking was completely laid bare. Higurashi silently lit another cigarette, as if waiting for me to interject during this awkward pause. I see. So this was a veteran detective's way of getting someone to spill information. But, as long as I realized this, there would be nothing more. If I didn't open my mouth, I wouldn't have to lose anything. All I had to do was stare out the window and enjoy the scenery until Higurashi gave up.
あなたって人は本当に隠し事が下手な人ですね。
You really are bad at hiding things, you know.
そういう素直で初々しいの悪くないな。
Being so young and earnest isn't so bad. Higurashi smirked as he twisted out his third cigarette, while I tried not to let him notice that I had yielded completely. First I thought I'd won. At the very least, Higurashi had ascertained that I was hiding something. Meaning that I might have ended up marching to his tune. Higurashi started up the engine once again and began to move the car.
素直なところを教えてくれりゃもっとお力になれると思ったんですがね。
They just sit there the whole day in silence. It looked like we were there for a while. You've just been honest with me. I thought I might have been able to help you.
素直に話したら
How would you help?
どう力になれるんです？
Cat was out of the bag. I might as well use it to catch some mice.
内容によりけりですがね。ひなみ沢界隈に詳しい情報屋に引き合わせてあげてもいいですよ。
Well, this depends on what we're talking about, but I might be able to set you up with someone who's knowledgeable about the goings-on in Hinamizawa.
協力員ですか？
Informant?
そっか。あんたらはそう呼ぶんでしたね。
I see. Is that what you call it?
どうして私の任務に興味を？
Are you interested in my
大石
case?
さん。
Uishi-san.
そりゃあんたと同じです。
Well, I'm the same as you.
常に知るのが私たちの仕事じゃありませんか。
Isn't it our business to know things? Being able to meet with Uishi's informant was an extremely compelling opportunity. We were looking to recruit somebody familiar with the area to collaborate for intelligence. In the end, there was no better method for finding people than asking. We were always taught, however, that the rank-and-file police were no better than monkeys. Unlike us, they were careless with confidential cases. We looked down on them like they'd run their mouths off in a drunken stupor. Luigi was an outlaw even amongst them. Here I was, lost on whether or not I should tell him about the kidnapping of the minister's grandson.
その情報協力員はどの程度鬼ヶ淵自主同盟に精通を？
This informant, exactly how knowledgeable are they about the Onikafuchi Guardians?
あんたも公安の人間ならわかるでしょ
If you're from public safety, you'd know, wouldn't you?
う。そんなの私の口からたとえあなたにだって話せるわけないじゃありませんか。
Something like that is something I can't just tell you. Protect your sources. That was the first principle of dealing with confidential information. In that regard, it seemed that Uishi wasn't one of those monkeys. Did I trust him, ask for his help, or not?
あなたは国、私は県に雇われてますがね。
It's just that you work for the feds, and I work for the prefecture.
私たちの職務はそう大きくは違わないと思っています。
I don't think that our jobs are that different.
力になれると思うんですがね。
I think I can be of help. However, I had trouble believing that this crafty old man would simply help me just like he claimed. Now, how should I go about this?
大石さんほどの方が無償で力になってくださるとはちょっと思い難いですが。
Find it hard to believe that someone of your standing would help me out without strings attached.
そりゃ下心がないわけじゃないです。
Well, it's not like I'm completely without an ulterior motive.
あんたら確か協力員に支払える謝礼用の予算を持ってますよね。
As I recall, you guys have space in your budget allocated to pay informants, right?
領収書不要な予算を。
Something you don't need to submit a receipt for.
そいつでですね、情報屋との接触にかかるコストをちょいと。
Just a little bit of that would be the cost of meeting with the informant.
つまり情報屋と渡りをつける謝礼をあなたにお支払いしろということですね。
In other words, give the compensation earmarked for the informant to you first.
取引内容が明快で助かります。
Well, it helps that the details of this deal are so clear-cut. He certainly was something else for being able to brazenly state his ulterior motive like this. Rather than him doing this out of the kindness of his heart, everything was a lot clearer if he was being compensated for this deal. I felt that he was the type of man who was good at these backroom dealings.
誤解しないでくださいよ。
Don't misunderstand me, please.
お金が必要なのは私にじゃなくて情報屋になんですからね。
It's not me who needs the money, it's the informant, okay?
まあ支払いの関係上、お金は私が預かりますがね。
Well, in regards to the payment, I'll be handling the money.
支払いはいつ？
When do you want it?
今すぐがいいですね。
Right now would be good.
ないなら明日でもいいんですよ。
If you don't have it on you, tomorrow works as well. I pulled out a wallet that was different from my personal one. Price was pretty much fixed depending on what kind of information I was paying for. In this case, the payment was up front. Also considering the fact I didn't know what kind of info I would get, I shouldn't pay too much. When I suggested that, Uishi suddenly stretched out his hand and tightly grasped the contents of the wallet.
こういう時はですね、ケチケチしない方がいいんです。
Times like this, it's best you not be so stingy.
大丈夫大丈夫。損はさせませんから。
It's alright, I won't go to waste.
わかりました。
I understand.
ケチケチしないことにします。
I won't be stingy.
で、
And?
調べたい情報は何です？
What kind of information are you looking for?
内容によって多少アプローチが変わることもありますので。
Depending on what you want, how we approach this will probably change.
他言無用を誓ってもらえますか？
You swear you won't spread this information to anybody else?
大石さん。
Uishi-san?
誓うまでもありませんよ。
Can't swear as much.
私もあなたたちと同じ。
I'm the same as you.
職務上知り得たことは他言できませんからね。
I can't withhold information obtained during the course of my duties.
わかりましたよ。誓います。
I got it, I swear.
ここで聞くことは他言無用です。
Nothing here gets said anywhere else.
それに、あなたのおかげで溜まってたツケを全部返せるんですからね。
On top of that, thanks to you, I can pay back what I owe from my mahjong debts.
私は少なくとも金の絡んだ約束は絶対に違いませんよ。
In any case, I won't break a promise that involves money. I was still unsure if I should trust him until the very last moment, but in the end, I broke down. Uishi wasn't the type of guy I could trust 100%, but there was no mistaking he had access to underground information networks. In order to accomplish my mission swiftly, I needed his cooperation. I set my resolve.
鬼ヶ淵主導名がある事件に関与しているか否かを調査しています。
I'm investigating whether or not the Onagafuchi Guardians is related to a certain incident.
ある事件？
Certain incident?
犬飼建設大臣が何者かに脅迫を。
可能性とはまた
おいや
遠回しな言い方ですね。
There's a possibility that the Minister of Construction in Inukai is being coerced by someone. Saying there's a possibility is kind of a roundabout way of putting it.
大臣の近辺に内通者がいるらしいのです。
It appears there's a mole close to the minister.
その内通者によって高度に監視されているらしく、大臣は脅迫初期から屈服している様子です。
And due to that mole, the minister had been monitored quite thoroughly and was seemingly forced to cede to their threats right away.
警察へも我々へも一切通報していません。
None of this was reported to us or the police.
なるほど。
I see.
だから脅迫を受けている可能性という言い方になると。
So that's why you're saying there's only a possibility he's being coerced.
だとすると妙ですね。
In that case, isn't it a little strange?
大臣が誰にも通報しないなら、どうしてあんたらは事件を知ったんです？
The minister didn't report this to anybody. How did you guys know about this incident? If we didn't spy on the minister's private life, we would never have found out.
その説明は私が情報屋に提供する必要がないと思われるので割愛します。
I don't think we have to provide that explanation to the informant, so I'm omitting it. Higurashi had apparently caught on and quietly chuckled when I refused to explain.
なるほど。
I see.
大臣の近辺にスパイがいるらしいから、公安だけの極秘調査ということになったわけですか。
There's a spy close to the minister, so public safety made it a highly classified investigation.
そりゃ確かに穏便な話じゃないですね。
It certainly isn't a very amicable story, is it?
ことを公にすれば、大臣の政治生命も含め、政変に発展する可能性は極めて高いでしょう。
If this matter became public, not only would this affect the minister's political career, but the possibility of there being a shift in the political landscape is extremely high.
犯人グループの目的がそこにあるならば、有識事態に発展する可能性があります。
If the perpetrator's aim is indeed that, then this could develop into a very grave situation.
政府の列島改造は、まあいろいろ方々との衝突も多いらしいですからね。
Well, with the government having development projects all over the country, they've butted heads with quite a few people.
どんなささやかなケチでも一つつけば、野党勢力がどっと票を伸ばす可能性もあると。
It wouldn't take much wrongdoing for the left-wing parties to suddenly garner more support.
大臣がどのような要求を受けているのかは、現在調査中です。
Currently investigating what demands are being forced on the minister.
ですが、脅迫の方法だけは、ほぼわかっています。
But at least we have a good idea of how he's being threatened.
なんです？
How?
大臣の孫の誘拐です。
The minister's grandson was kidnapped.
周辺は否定していますが、最後の目撃から見て、すでに誘拐後72時間が経過していると思われます。
They're denying it, but judging from when he was last seen, it's believed it's already been over 72 hours since the kidnapping.
3日ですか。
So, 3 days.
波の身代金目的ならもう決着してますね。
They were just after ransom money. This would have been settled by now.
金銭でなく、大臣に何らかの政治的なアクションを要求している可能性が極めて高いでしょう。
It may be this isn't for monetary gain. The possibility that they're forcing the minister to do something politically is extremely high.
それを我々は黙認するわけにはいきません。
It's something we just can't consent to.
で、それの犯人グループとの可能性として、鬼ヶ淵死守同盟がリストに上がったわけですね。
So then, the Onigafuji Guardians was listed as one of the possible perpetrators.
そうです。
That's correct.
大臣の孫を誘拐して、ダム計画の撤回を求めるか。
Kidnap the minister's grandson and demand the cancellation of the dam project.
どうでしょう、大石さん。
What do you think, Uishi-san?
その可能性はあなたから見てあり得ると思いますか？
From your point of view, do you think that's possible? Uishi seemed to ponder the idea for a while. The section chief at the regional office had responded immediately with, "It's possible." However, Uishi, who was this well informed about the matter, was hemming and hawing. Finally, just a little bit. He said something that was really just a little bit strange.
明治前まではですね、
This was before the Meiji era, you see.
この辺りはひなみ沢村って名前じゃなくて鬼ヶ淵村って呼ばれてたそうです。
This area wasn't named Hinamizawa Village back then. It was called Onigafuchi.
うちのばあ様の受け売りですがね。
This is just what I heard from my mother. This topic was so completely and suddenly unrelated to the subject of the kidnapping of the minister's grandson that I was taken slightly aback.
鬼ヶ淵村。
Onigafuchi?
それで鬼ヶ淵修道名という名称になったわけですね。
Oh, so that's why they're called the Onigafuchi Guardians.
鬼ヶ淵村ってのはですね、人食い鬼の住む村だと言われてたんだそうです。
You see, the village of Onigafuchi was said to be inhabited by demons that devoured humans.
今でも村人は自分の体に鬼の血が半分流れてると信じてます。
Even now, it's believed that the blood of these demons partially courses through the veins of the villagers.
人食い鬼。
Demons that devour humans.
大石さん、それ何の話ですか？
Uishi-san, what are you saying?
情報ですよ、情報。
Information.
さっきあなたからたくさんもらっちゃいましたからね。
I got a lot from you just now.
少しもらいすぎました。
A little too much.
その分サービスしてあげてるんですよ。
In exchange, I'm giving you a little freebie. Uishi finally smiled, but it didn't seem like he was fooling around.
先を続けてください。
Please continue.
人食い鬼たちはですね、
You see, these human-devouring demons,
普段は仙人と崇められてひっそりと暮らしているんですがね。
normally they were revered as Taoist transcendents and lived tucked away from the rest of the world.
やっぱり人食いですから定期的に麓の村に降りてきては獲物をさらっていったんだそうです。
But they ate people after all, so apparently they'd go to villages in the foothills regularly and abduct their prey.
それをですね、鬼隠しと言いまして、
They used to call that being demoned away, or onikakushi. Demoned away. It was the first time I'd heard such a peculiar phrase. However, I felt something slightly ominous from this horrifying tale of demons abducting people in order to eat them.
ほら、よく世間一般に神隠しっていうのがあるじゃないですか。
Look, you know how there's the common phrase spirited away?
人がある日突然失踪してしまうとそう言うでしょ。
When people suddenly go missing one day, they call it that.
この辺りでは同じことがあると鬼隠しって呼ぶんです。
And the same thing happens around here. They call it being demoned away.
その昔話と本件に何か関係が？
How does that old tale relate to the matter at hand?
いえいえ、
Oh no.
直接的には何の関係もない。ただのおしゃべりですがね。
There's no direct relationship. I'm just making some small talk here.
ただ、
It's just... Ka-thump, ka-thump. Car shook. At some point, the gravel road had changed to a paved one.
ただ、何です？
It's just what?
この土地に鬼隠しという名の失踪、誘拐を暗示するキーワードがある。ということだけはお話ししておこうと思いまして。
But around here, the phrase demoned away is somewhat of a code for disappearances and kidnappings. I just thought I'd mention that.
今回の大臣の孫の誘拐と関係あるかはわかりませんがね。
I don't know if this has anything to do with the kidnapping of the minister's grandson.
まあ、深い話ではないんです。
Well, there's no deep meaning behind it.
そんな言われの話があるということだけでもね。
It's just, there's that little bit of history. Onikakushi, human-eating demons coming down to the foothills and abducting their prey. Then, in order to cancel the dam project that threatened to submerge the village they lived in, did they demon away the minister's grandson? Then, they already made an example out of the minister's grandson and eaten him alive?
ちょっと興味深い昔話ですね。
It's a bit of an interesting old tale, isn't it?
鬼たちの村にみだりに踏み入れば、たちまち囚われ食い殺される。
you set foot into the demon's village without reason, you'll promptly be captured and eaten alive.
だから鬼ヶ淵村には近づくな。
So don't go near Onikafuchi.
今時の若者はこんな迷信信じませんがね。
Kids these days might not believe such superstitions.
沖宮の明治生まれの年寄り連中には今でも真面目に信じてるのが多いですよ。
But amongst the older folk in Okinomiya born in the Meiji era, many would never question these warnings. Inamizawa village was feared by the people in the area. I recalled that piece of information I heard from the Prefectural Public Safety Division.
何しろこの辺は田舎ですからね。
In any case, we're in the boonies out here.
迷信なんかが平気で幅を利かせてるんです。
Kind of expected there'd be some superstitions around.
東京から来られた赤坂さんにはちょっと想像もつかないでしょうがね。
Somebody from Tokyo like you, Akasaka-san, probably couldn't even begin to imagine it, could you? Man-eating demons. As the price for violating the sanctity of their village, kidnapped the minister's grandson, swallowed him whole. That ludicrous idea flew through my head. It was so absurd I was half disgusted with myself. I wish she was just teasing me. Stupid. It was all really so stupid. Come to think of it, by then, I may have already been seized by the curse of that dubious village. For me to realize that it'd take a little more time. We're learning about demoning away again. Whoa! 4 of them! I didn't know we were gonna get to... Is that me down there? I hope Sadako and Rika are having a good day right now. I hope so too. Let's view these tips. I didn't know we were gonna get tips this chapter. Phone call with Yuki.
そうですか。
Oh,
急な
really?
出張は大変ですね。
It's tough when it's such a sudden assignment.
どうぞお気をつけて。
Please be careful.
出張はどちらへですか？
Where are you headed?
もう出張先なんですか？
You already there? Whenever I headed out on assignment, she would ask where. Not just Yuki, but anybody would have asked the same question. If it was a cold place, she would urge me to pack a thick jacket. If it was far, she'd warn me to be careful on the drive over. It was just normal everyday concern that led to asking such an obvious thing. I felt sad that I couldn't answer such a run-of-the-mill question.
ごめんなさい。言ってはいけない規則でしたね。
Sorry. Something that you can't talk about, is it?
どうかお気をつけて。
Please be careful.
すまん、ユキ。
Sorry, Yuki.
あなたはいつの頃からすぐに謝られるようになったんでしょう。
At some point, you started apologizing right away.
あれだけはつらつと充実していらっしゃったのに。
Even though when you first started your job, you were all gung-ho about it. Yuki laughed as though she had realized something. Times like this, Yuki had the magical power to see right through me.
私が入院してもう随分になりますものね。あなたもそろそろ寂しくなってきましたか？
It's already been quite a while since I was admitted to the hospital. Are you finally getting lonely?
からかうなよ。
Don't tease me.
寂しがるような年じゃないさ。
Too old to get lonely.
さてさていかがでしょう。あなたは本当に甘えん坊さんですからね。
Oh, really? You actually like to be doted on, don't you?
私と一緒でないとだんだん弱気になってきてしまうのでしょ。
Don't you start getting a little faint of heart when I'm not around?
ああ、もう。今、ユキエの頭に小悪魔の角がにょっきりと生えているのが目に浮かぶよ。
Ah, jeez. I can see the little devil horn sprouting from your head right now.
君は昔から
You've always been like this.
はぐらかさないはぐらかさない。私に構ってもらえなくて寂しい寂しいって。
You can't hide it, you can't hide it. If I don't play with you, you get all lonely.
あなたが尻尾を振っている音が受話器を通しても聞こえてきますよ。
I can hear your tail wagging over the phone. This side of Yuki wasn't something you could guess existed from seeing her usual modest behavior. And it was something that she didn't show to anybody else but me. Normally I'd poke her to hide my embarrassment and bring an end to the conversation, but I couldn't do that over the phone. Of course, Yuki was clever. She was teasing me because of that.
あなたを困らせるのがこんなに楽しいと気づいたのはいつからだったでしょうね。
I wonder when I figured out that giving you grief was this much fun.
そろそろ許してくれよ。とにかく君の元気な声が聞けてよかった。
Give me a break. In any case, it's good to hear you so lively.
そうでしょ。元気になれましたか？
I know, right? Did I cheer you up? I had called Yuki to keep her from feeling lonely when she was by herself in the hospital room. Of course, that was nothing more than a pretense that I, being shy, had come up with. It seemed that Yuki had long since seen through that act. Yeah.
また電話をしてくださいな。私がダメな時はお父さんが相手をしてくれるでしょう。
Please phone again. If I'm not feeling up to it, I'll get my father to talk with you.
もっともお父さんが相手ではあなたのことだから電話先でも直立不動で喋っていそう。
Although, if you're talking with my father, I get the feeling that you'd be standing at attention on the other side of the line. For a little while longer, Yuki kept teasing me without letting me end the call. Wasn't that just wonderful? I'm gonna BRB. I'm going to go refill my water, and then we'll finish these tips and continue on. Be back in a minute.
Now we gotta go help people customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual.
Well, hang on. I gotta get my video going. I don't care about Liberty Mutual. I care about my movie. Let me full screen this shit too. Okay, I'm back. Let's do this. A record of opening remarks. Chairman Blank. Members of the Blank Party. Congratulations are due as we are celebrating 25 years since our founding. These past 25 years have seen much growth in the Blank Prefecture. The once quiet scenery of nothing but fields now has seen the opening of a new stop for the bullet train. And with the development of the highway, we've seen the rebirth of a modern city bursting with youthful energy. We've reaped the benefits of new businesses and industry. And with the special reverence the residents of Blank Prefecture have for time-honored traditions, history and culture, business and industry, with these ideals in harmony, they have accomplished in growing their city into one of Japan's foremost metropolises. Of course, the development of Blank Prefecture couldn't have happened without the growth of the Blank Party. We will resolve to see every one of our campaign promises to fruition, reaching our targets definitively and expediently like arrows fired from a bow. With these arrows as the fundamental basis of the Blank Party, our members have sought to pierce the obstructions preventing the happiness of the residents of Blank Prefecture. But I do believe that everybody here is unlike an ordinary arrow. While being as unfaltering and straightforward, we have not neglected in seeking solutions that conform to the current day and age while also keeping an eye on the future. An arrow once loosed can only fly to its destination. Everyone here, however, is no simple arrow. Even once loosed from the bow without neglecting our studies, while employing new methods, and implementing more effective and flexible ideas, thus being able to change trajectories mid-flight, we are magical arrows. The modern age marches ever forward. Sometimes it marches faster than the time taken from planning to execution. The falling part was not in the script. This thought to have been ad-libbed by the minister. For example, there have recently been numerous problems with the Hinamizawa power plant project. Rather than forcing through the project solely because it was decided upon by the government, it is necessary to reflect on and adjust to the ever-changing needs of the residents, the region, and the next generation. The protests by the local residents that surround the Hinamizawa Dam, these are also the will of the people of Blank Prefecture. If you feel that there is no need to listen because the project has already been finalized, you do nothing more than shed a poor light on Japan's post-war democracy. The following is as per the script. For the lasting happiness of the citizens of Japan and the residents of Blank Prefecture, please consider these policies thoroughly. I believe, however, we have all gained something from the flexibility and foresight of the Blank Party. I've taken up much of your time. However, allow me to say the following to celebrate the 20th anniversary of our founding. Chairman Blank, members of the Blank Party in attendance, thank you very much for today. From the opening remarks of the Blank Party Prefectural Forum and 25th anniversary celebration. Okay. This chapter, all about politics. Gears and fire and the taste of honey. The world is filled with people blessed with relationships. This song is different. Of course, that doesn't mean that everyone is connected to each other. It's obvious that on the other side of the planet, there are people laughing and crying who can't possibly have an effect on you. However, in the extremely limited community of the neighborhood, that sort of connection is just a matter of fact. It's quite possible that a single remarkable event could have massive consequences inside a small community. If you were to increase that in scale, a perfect stranger on the other side of the globe might become enough of a legend to have an effect on our lives. Well, it's not always that way. Like I said at the beginning, the links between people basically aren't that relevant in the grand scheme of things. Whether some household nearby is having steak or croquet doesn't matter to me. When I put on my shoes, it doesn't matter to anybody whether I put the right one on first or the left. This much the average person can understand. But actually, in reality, this is the truth. The bonds between people are quite well defined. It's not just a matter of distance, of being far or near. For example, let's say that person A's actions have some effect on me. Even then, person B's actions could have absolutely no consequence on my life. The reverse also holds true. Just because my actions affect person A, that doesn't always mean that they affect person B as well. Put it bluntly, the bonds between people are like gears in a machine. Gear that represents me meshes with some people, but is isolated from others. There are some who try arguing against this. Those people would bring up the example of gears in a clock. Each gear indeed only directly meshes with one or two others. However, if you rotate one gear, one next to it is moved, which connects to the next one, and the next. In the end, all the gears are moving. There is a logic behind this, more than enough to convince the average person. Why is the argument convincing? The answer is simple. The relationships between people are ambiguous, and can only be described conceptually. How the gears are connected and how their movements are chained together can't be used as a fundamental explanation, so it throws a wet blanket on that argument. So for the people who like that explanation, I'll use the example of a clock again to refute it. First of all, to say that this world is a singular clock would be wrong. That is, there isn't only one clock. There exist many clocks in this world, each counting their own time. Think about it, the idea that this world is just one big clock is the height of arrogance. Even if you use the analogy of gears to explain human relationships. And you should be able to explain it using an analogy of multiple clocks unrelated to a single gear. Neighbors A and B. A is a gear in the same clock as me, so it's best to remain civil. B is a gear in a different clock, so he doesn't really matter to me at all. That's the kind of clearer distinction I'm talking about. I don't think you should think like that. You want to say I'm being fallacious? Then let's change the analogy to something more familiar so you can understand. You've probably heard the phrase, a fire on the opposite shore sometime in your life, no? No, I haven't. For example, if your neighbor's house was on fire, you'd probably try and help to put it out, wouldn't you? It'd be awful if the fire spread and burned down your own house after all. What if that fire was in a town on the opposite side of a river? Would you still go out of your way to help? You wouldn't, would you? Even though it would be the wrong thing to do, there's no way the fire could spread to your own house. Even if it turned into a huge conflagration, there's no relation between the houses that will spread fire to yours and those that won't. With this basic example, you should be able to see the difference between gears that are or aren't related to your own. Having said that, there's still a lot to think about, even without a river to divide it. After all, it's not a spatial problem like being on the other side of the river, is it? That is an interesting tip. Whose perspective is that written from? The chick in the trunk. Car had stopped. But he didn't know any more than that. For not only was he blindfolded, but locked in the trunk of the car. Oh. How could people become this powerless just by being robbed of their sight? He absolutely wouldn't have known this without experiencing it firsthand. He soon realized it was pointless to try and undo his bonds, with the confines of the trunk quickly making him lightheaded. He had no choice but to let this mild torture dull his senses. That's why, when the car stopped and the unpleasant vibrations ceased as the engine was killed, he couldn't help but delude himself that he was being set free, even though nothing had been resolved in reality. Of course, he was soon removed from that delusion. He strained his ears when he heard one of the men who'd abducted him and an older man he was hearing for the first time strike up a conversation.
お疲れさんです。ヒナはトランクに。
Nice to see you. The chick is in the trunk.
騒ぎすぎで多少衰弱してるようですが、ご命令通り、傷一つつけちゃいません。
He struggled so much that he's probably exhausted right now. There's not a mark on him, just as ordered.
おう、手間かけましたの。
Oh, must have been a handful. Trunk opened, letting in a blast of fresh, cool air. Even though up until just now he'd been thinking about getting out of that stuffy trunk, when it was actually opened, he suddenly became uneasy. Enough so that he wished that the lid of the trunk would once again close, separating himself from them. Suddenly, somebody stroked his head. Of course, since he was blindfolded, he couldn't tell if the hand was petting him or simply evaluating how easy it would be to remove his scalp. Unable to tell the difference, he could only freeze as he imagined the worst-case scenario.
すったらん。愛そうにの。震えとんね。
Poor little bugger. He's shaken.
おとなしくしばらく過ごすがよかろう。
Just stay calm for a bit. The older man said that kindly as he gently stroked the boy's head.
本に辛い思いしちゃろな。だがな。おんめのおじいちゃんは優しい人だね。
This must be real tough for you. But you see, your Gramps is a nice man.
すぐに助けてくれるだろうの。
He'll help you soon enough. Having heard nothing but the average standard dialect his whole life, the older man's distinct intonation left a deep impression on the boy. But he had no idea what he was saying. For your Gramps to register as meaning your grandfather took a while to process. Eventually, the hand that was stroking his head loosened the blindfold.
目隠しはまずいっすよ。面が割れると後々まずいです。
Can't keep his eyes covered. If he splits his face open, it'd be bad.
ああ、そうかの。なんら、せめて猿靴はくらい外したらんな。
And with that, we might as well take out the gag.
これぎゃ、息もできんね。
Can't breathe like that.
叫ばれたらまずいです。こいつのことは、俺たちに任せてください。
There'll be trouble if he yells. Leave him to us.
たく、気の利かんやっちゃらな。本家にむごい仕打ちは戦議やっちゃっとる。
Jeez, you guys don't know how to treat somebody. The main family said no rough stuff.
そこんとこ、肝に刻むんよ。
You better remember that well.
わかってます。手荒な真似はしませんよ。
Yeah, we won't do anything stupid.
小僧がおとなしくしててくれる分にはね。
As long as the kid cooperates, that is. The man's hand prodded roughly and repeatedly at the boy's head. A rugged hand, unlike the affectionate one that had been stroking his head before. Stay cooperative. If you struggle, there's no guarantee what will happen. That cliched threat was literally beaten into his head. Well, they mentioned a main family, which makes me think that it is in fact related to the three families. Oh, interesting. Waking up in a cheap hotel in the city was by no means pleasant. I remembered even during the long camping trips we had during grade school, I wanted to get home quickly, counting out the days left on my fingers. Waking up this morning, I was somehow reminded of that. Was it a need to be with my wife when she gave birth? A particular type of homesickness? As a productive member of society, as a public servant bound to fulfill his duties, it was pathetic indeed. Those negative emotions faded as I downed my breakfast, which was surprisingly not half bad. The meeting with the informant that Higurashi had provided would be tonight. Till then, I couldn't just be lazing around. The Onagafuji Guardians was protesting the dam's construction in various ways. Including this was a strategy for improving public relations, which could be categorized into two major forms: combative and peaceful. In regard to the former, as an attempt to keep law enforcement in check, they appealed to the public's sympathy by highlighting the oppressive and inhumane tactics of the police and brutality of the riot squads. The latter peaceful route stressed how precious the natural surroundings of Hinamizawa was, seeking people who would oppose the dam on environmental grounds. As a part of that, the village of Hinamizawa had invited celebrated zoologists and botanists, as well as environmental groups, to advertise the nature surrounding the town. According to the news, in recent years there had been a group calling itself Hinamizawa Nature Watching, setting up free sightseeing tours. I would have liked to have taken advantage of the opportunity, but when I called the village administrative offices, they said it was too late to apply for the tour. They were still undecided as to when they'd be doing another one.
そうですか。
I see.
次回の募集はありませんか？
There's no applications for next time.
残念です。
Too bad.
あんた、環境保護団体さんですか？
Are you a member of an environmental group?
それとも雑誌さんの人？
Or maybe somebody from a magazine?
いえ、個人です。
No, just here privately.
個人？観光ですかね？
Privately? Then you're a tourist?
観光みたいなものです。
Something like that.
美しい自然を写真に残すのが趣味なんで。
It's my hobby to take pictures that display how beautiful nature can be.
雑誌でとても貴重な自然が残っていると読んだので、楽しみにしていたのですが。
I read in a magazine that there were some precious nature reserves here, so I was looking forward to it. I knew there was an article that had something like that written in it, but I hadn't actually read it. Was it this ad-lib lie not going to work? However, contrary to my expectations, the person I was speaking to laughed happily.
ならあんた、検査来なさい。
Then come.
村はちょいと慌ただしいけど、歓迎しますよ。
The village is a little busy right now, but you're totally welcome here.
ぜひそうさせていただきます。ありがとうございます。
In that case, I'll graciously accept the offer. Thank you.
あんた、明日は何ですか？
How you getting around?
お車？
Car?
もしそうだったら、先にナンバーを聞いておきますよ。
That's the case. Could I ask you for your license plate number?
台湾ないんですがね。
No, there's no ulterior motive behind that. That's probably related to the checkpoints they'd set up on the way to the village. If I didn't give them my license plate number, I'd most likely be hindered in various ways. I thought about using the car I'd borrowed from the prefecture, but I was lost on whether it was okay to tell them that plate number. The Onikafuchi Guardians was behind this incident. There's no guarantee they wouldn't be able to find out who I was. I had to play it safe, so I elected to refrain from using the car.
いえ、実は車ではないんです。
No, actually I'm not using a car.
バスか何かがあれば、それで行きたいのですが。
If there's a bus or something, I'd prefer that.
バスならありますよ。
We do have a bus, actually.
もうすぐ廃線になっちまうそうですがね。
The route is going to be discontinued soon, though.
そんでいらっしゃい。
You can take that.
沖宮の駅から出ますよ。
It departs from Okinomiya Station.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
探してみることにします。
I'll look out for it.
本当、いつ来ます？
When will you be coming?
ひなみ沢さ初めて？
Is it your first time in Hinamizawa?
初めての土地じゃ、いろいろとご不安でしょう。
If it is, you must be unsure about a lot of things.
教えてくれりゃ、誰か行かせていろいろご案内させますよ。
If you let me know, I can have somebody show you around.
そんな。そこまでしていただくのは申し訳ないです。
Oh, no, I couldn't ask that much of you.
気にせんでください。
Don't worry about it.
これも村の自然さ守るための PR なんですから。
That's just a PR we do. To protect nature around the village. Judging by what I saw at the checkpoint, the villagers were at the very least wary of outsiders. That's why, in order to move in and out of the village freely, I had to travel with somebody like Oishi, or side with the dam protests. Having an interest in the natural environment surrounding the village tied into the peaceful type of PR that the village was using. I was a bit against having a watchdog attached to me, but that might actually work out in my favor. The entire village was fired up about the dam protests, so I might be lucky enough to hear some especially candid opinions from the residents. Given that, there was no real reason for me to refuse their offer.
本当によろしいのでしょうか。
Is it really alright?
でしたら本当に助かります。
If so, that'll really help. After that, I was shown the bus schedule and directed to which bus I should get on. Somebody would come and meet me at the bus stop in the village. I'd show me around a spot I'd taken interest in. There was no doubt they'd bring me to somewhere like an anti-dam information center. Then, over a cup of tea, they'd try and indoctrinate me into accepting their principles and beliefs. Well, if that was their aim, there'd be a lot of freebies involved. The world is about give and take, after all. I couldn't be going in a suit. I pulled some plain clothes out of my travel case and changed into something more casual. After that, after calming down by watching some local television, I left the hotel and set out for Okinomiya Station. The bus route that I was told would soon be discontinued certainly didn't look that way. There was more than enough trips on the schedule, and the number of passengers was by no means sparse. It was the main link to Okinomiya, the only town in the area. The types of passengers that stood out were older folk who didn't look like they could drive, and housewives who didn't seem like they had a license. The area was submerged at the bottom of the lake. It wouldn't matter if there was a bus route. That's why it was going to be discontinued, in the natural scheme of things. I could catch a glimpse of the government's intent in cutting off their means of transportation to bully the village into emptying out sooner. Makes sense. According to the documents, talks between the Ministry of Construction and locals broke down quite early. The government decided from the start to take an aggressive stance on the matter. was like the fairy tale with the north wind and the sun trying to get the traveler to remove his cloak. Even their bullying had meaning to it. The reason why the Onikafuchi Guardians resisted so violently was because the government was doing unseemly things like that. I was somebody who lived in Tokyo, so for a village or two out in the boonies like this to be submerged didn't seem like a big deal. But I guess for somebody actually living here, you have a vitally huge problem. This route will be discontinued at the end of this financial year. Thank you for your patronage up to this point. We look forward to your continued patronage on our other lines. Okinomiya Transportation. Gazing lazily at the notice of discontinued service posted inside the bus, I counted down the number of stops until the designated one. Along the way, we passed through the checkpoint without stopping. They knew what time the bus was coming, so they had opened up the barricade ahead of time. From here on out was enemy territory. My palms had at some point become coated in a thin film of sweat.
浮田水道前へ、浮田水道前へ、お降りの方はいらっしゃいませんか?
Now arriving at Ukita Waterworks. Now arriving at Ukita Waterworks. Are there any passengers disembarking? I hurriedly pressed the stop request button as the designated stop was announced. For none of the numerous passengers to be getting off here meant that it must be quite a remote place. In actuality, the stop I got off at was so abnormally run down that I could tell it was barely used. As soon as I stepped out, an intense atmosphere completely different than the interior of the bus assailed my body. Right now, Uishi or Hundaya weren't beside me. That's right. At present, I was alone in the middle of enemy territory. My adversaries probably thought I was just an ordinary tourist, but that was nothing more than a ruse. But if by some mistake my true identity was to be exposed, brought back the terrifying words I had heard at the prefectural office. If somebody was attacked in Hinamizawa with a knife, there wouldn't be any evidence left behind. It didn't seem suspicious, did I? My clothing was currently casual. It's exactly the type of clothing that a city slicker that viewed the countryside as a wholesome getaway would wear. A camera and knapsack. Inside were various things needed for hiking. It was still only June, and maybe it was unusual, but the sun was shining down like it was already the middle of summer. The fact that I didn't bring a hat must seem odd. No, it wasn't something to be that concerned about. It's alright, I was just a normal tourist. Just normal. Was there anything suspicious about me? Asking that as I turned around to look at the bus that was departing. All the passengers by the window were staring down at me, silently. Well, shit. They see me, they're like, outsider. Outsider. They're gonna get me, man. They were staring right at me, as if they'd seen right through my proud little outfit. Just staring, looking down on me. Countless stares rained down like needles on me from the windows open to air out the bus. All that rained down were stares. None of them were saying a word. But all the more, their silent stares told me more than a million words could. Hurry up and go back to Tokyo, you outsider.
いえ、私は。
No, There's no reason for me to speak. My quiet voice was drowned out by the sound of the engine. The bus, as if to torment me, set out slowly, and after doing more than enough to intimidate me, sped off. A thin film of sweat began to rise from my entire body. According to the documents, it was a village that seemed wary of outsiders. The population was small as well. If they saw an unfamiliar face, they'd be quick to identify that face as an outsider. On top of that, nobody else had gotten off at this stop. It was a bus stop that they normally just passed on by. Somebody actually getting off there. There was no doubt that had drawn some attention. But this wasn't a slip-up. They were the ones who directed me to get off at this stop. There's nothing to worry about. I knew that I was just nervous, since this was my first undercover assignment. My more seasoned colleagues referred to us as the new generation that didn't know how to lose their sense of cool. That wasn't true at all. It took a while to do that. In order to calm my breathing down, I exhaled the unpleasant air residing in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't help but pray that my apprehensions would disappear like the white clouds of exhaust expelled from the bus. There was a small shed there to serve as shelter if it rained, and it was there I decided to wait. Inside the shed, one wall was plastered with posters advertising the dam opposition efforts. It was like the heartfelt screams of the villagers were recorded on that wall. Inside that shelter, I felt an inexplicable pressure. It wasn't like I had any real relation to the dam project, but it still made me feel hesitant about being inside there. That was just how filled with the force of denial that space was. And inside that uneasy space was a girl. Hello? Hey kid, what up? Bobblehead. Inside that shed, covered in words written in broad brushstrokes berating the policies regarding the dam and calling for action, there was a girl sitting there with a drowsy gaze as if half asleep. The two images clashed so much that I could only stand there dumbfounded for a moment, trapped in such a surreal environment. If I stepped inside, who knows what kind of oafish noises I would accidentally make. Wouldn't be disturbing this girl's slumber like that. Having thought this, I gave up on entering the shed. It's just a sleeping kid, so why was I so worked up about it? Finally, I realized. This girl, to us as a married couple, is the very image of our ideal child. Even after numerous examinations at the hospital, we didn't know for sure what our child's gender was. Whether we could tell if they were a boy or a girl was, in the end, dependent on whether or not we could get an image of their genitalia. There was, of course, no guarantee that it was a girl, but with things the way they were, the possibility was high. Even so, Yuki had been saying that the chances that it was a boy or a girl were even. But in my heart, I had already decided that our coming child was a girl. Since the day I decided that until now, it was so fun to imagine how our child would grow up that I couldn't help myself. Amongst those numerous imagined forms, the one that I thought to be the most ideal had materialized right in front of me. Of course, a little of it was due to the circumstances. In my ideal image, her hair would be on the short side. The girl in front of me, though, had long hair. It was almost as if somebody had taken my ideal and made some small adjustments. It certainly wasn't something unpleasant. No, this baby's ugly! This is an ugly baby! Even so, I felt like I was sullying her just by looking at her like that. She had an immaculate, no, a divine air about her. That girl with an angelic smile, with a yawn wide enough you could see her molars, woke up all of a sudden. Didn't mean to peep. But locking eyes with a girl who had just woken up like this somehow made me feel like I was playing a prank on her. Wasn't doing anything shady, but it became flustered. The girl spoke. No, cried out.
Me.
She's so small! She's definitely smaller than usual, right? So, hitting the Meep frame 1. Meep? You're the character on the show with the puppets? The orange hair? Thought it was just one of those greetings kids do. In order to prove I wasn't a suspicious person, I responded in kind.
Me.
Meep.
Me.
Meep?
Me.
Meep. The girl stared at me dubiously with a doll-like expression. Cute, but cold and hard to read. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. There was, after all, an unfamiliar man right in front of her when she woke up, who responded with Meep when she said the same. Suspicious. She definitely thought I was suspicious.
Me.
Meep. Meep. We were both at a loss for words. No, the only one lost was me. The girl in front of me, as if inquiring about my motives, stared at me intently. In this silence, I felt like I was the one who had to say something first. Damn it, this girl was way better at interrogating somebody than Oishi.
怪しいものじゃないんだ。
I'm not anybody suspicious.
私は
I'm...
ニパ
She said it!
ニパ
Nipa?
ニパ
What I could only have described as a cold expression suddenly blossomed into a smile, one that soon infected me. You might be familiar with the term angelic smile. To me, it was like that phrase was created just to describe the smile she gave me. The girl smiling while saying Nipa probably wanted me to return the favor in kind. That's right, this was a kid's form of communication. Having the other person emulate what you just did was a rudimentary form of mutual understanding.
ニパ
Nipa.
ニパ
It was a beautiful afternoon in the early summer. What was I doing?
ニパ
ニパ
This fucking weirdo. Well, whatever. This was interesting in its own way. Making somebody happy with just a smile was the work of angels. This girl definitely was definitely one of them. I couldn't help but pray that my own child, who was soon to be born, would grow up to be like this girl. This girl is apparently Uishi. Not Uishi? Oh, Yoshiro-sama, like reincarnated or something. This girl's the devil? It's her curse? I don't know. I find that hard to believe, but maybe that's the point. That strangely gentle moment was finally brought to the end by the arrival of a car. An older person waved at me from the driver's seat, a dry smile plastered on their face.
どうも、こんにちは。
Hi there, good afternoon.
遅れて申し訳ないことです。
Sorry for being late.
昨日お電話くださった観光の方ですかね。
You're the tourist who phoned yesterday, right?
あ、はい。
Huh? Yeah.
お待たせして申し訳ね
Sorry to keep you waiting.
え。いや、野良でちょいと遅れましてね。
I'm running a little behind because of the farm.
したらと、お
Hop
乗
right
りく
in.
ださいな。天気もまんた崩れそうだから、ちゃけちゃけご案内しますよ。
It looks like the weather isn't going to hold up for much longer, so I'll show you around real quick.
天気ですか
Huh? The weather?
ああ、ここいらは崩れると早いよ。
Changes fast around here.
まあ夕立になるかもな。
There'll probably be evening showers again today.
そうなったら、あんた写真さ撮るところじゃなくなるでしょ。
That happens, you won't be able to take any pictures.
ほら、乗って乗って。
Come on, get in, get in.
め
Turning around, the girl was standing right behind me with an intrigued expression. Her body language somehow reminded me of a stray cat that followed you around after you played with a little. So charming.
あれ、リカちゃまじゃねえですか。
Well, if it isn't Rika-chama.
ありがたや、ありがたや。
Praise be, praise be.
みぱ
Does she not talk yet? A girl named Rika with an immaculate smile, and an old man praising her while rubbing prayer beads in his hands. It was a rather mysterious sight to behold. So, the girl turns her face at me, tilting her head a little in a cutesy manner. After seeing that, the elder introduces me as a tourist who came to sightsee Hinamizawa.
村を観光したい若者なのです
She does speak. A youngin who came to the village for sightseeing. The girl, Rika-chan, said that with a smile as she clung onto my arm.
まあね。
Well, yeah.
この村の自然がとても貴重だと聞いたんで、ぜひカメラに収めたいと思ったんだよ。
I heard that this village is surrounded by a precious nature reserve, so I very much wanted to record that with my camera.
私はこう見えても、とっても写真撮影が好きでね。
Even though I look like this, I really like to take pictures.
富竹2号なのです
Tomataki Mark II. I wondered if Tomataki had... if he was, like, coming to Hinamizawa this early or not. Huh?
富竹
Tomitake? Huh?
牧野
Makino.
僕も一緒に行ってはいけませんですか
Is it okay if I come along too?
そんな、レカちゃまが来ても、面白いことなんか何もないですよ。
I couldn't. You could come along, Rika-chama, but there's nothing interesting to see.
レカちゃまは、境内でマリ遊びでもしててくださいな。
You go play near the shrine or something.
え
A distinctly displeased expression creeped across Rika-chan's face. Being able to show one's emotions honestly on their faces was a privilege young children had.
もしお差し支えなければ、この子も連れて行ってあげてください。
It's not too much of a problem. Could you bring this child along with us? Man, this shit's crazy. In like a rural town back in like the 70s, you could just be like, random kid, you want to roll with us? Like, you could just do that. You can't do that now. Which, I mean, you know, I understand why you can't do that now. But you really... this is crazy. Like, you encounter a random child in a shed, it's like, yo, want to come sightsee with us? Don't know where your parents are. Doesn't matter. When said those helpful words, another smile spread across Rika-chan's face with another nipa as she clung to me again. Ah, not bad at all. I want this girl to call me Papa. Okay, man, you're gonna have your own kid soon. Calm down. No. Father. Dad. Daddy. What am I doing? Ever since I met this girl, I was completely off my game. Just calm down.
勝てなあかんと。
Nothing I can do, I guess.
レカちゃまはダメだ言うても聞かんしな。
Rika-chama never listens even if you say no. I mean, at least it's not like it's complete strangers. It's such a small town that, like, literally everyone knows Rika, including this guy that's giving the tour. So, like, that's also helping, is that because it's such a small town, literally everybody knows each other.
知ったらんと、お乗りください。
Come on, hop on in.
ささ、レカちゃまも。
Come now, Rika-chama too. The old man descended from the driver's seat and opened up the sliding door of the van, which had Onigafuchi Alliance Town Council stenciled on the side. She bounces? Rika-chan brushed me aside, dove into a seat, and began bouncing around right away. It seemed like she was thoroughly enjoying the bouncy springs.
カンレレカちゃま
Come on now, Rika-chama.
そんじゃお客さんが座れねえですよ
You're like that, our guest can't sit down.
やだこらレカちゃま
Hey, Rika-chama. Girls are nice. Wonder if my child will play around like this too. No, 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 no. It was written in that guide to raising a child that you shouldn't dote on them. Kids are kids. If you don't raise them strictly without spoiling them.
ふかふかでバインバインでニパ
Soft and springy, Nipa.
ニパ
I like hearing this guy have to say Nipa. I'm definitely going to be a terrible father. It was decided that I'd be a doting parent before my child was even born.
そんじゃお客さん風景の綺麗そうなとこで適当にご案内しますよ
Well then, sir, I'll show you around some places that I think look nice.
お昼は食べましたかいね
Have you eaten lunch yet?
え
Yeah,
えホテルで軽食を
I had a light meal at the hotel.
そんですか
Is that so?
では参りましょうかね
Well then, let's get going.
ひなみ沢観光に出発なのですよ。わ
We're setting off on a tour of Hinamizawa.
ーいなのです。
Yay!
君はリカちゃんでいいのかい
Is it alright if I call you Rika-chan?
そうなのですよ。
Sure.
フルでリカと言いますです。
My name is Rika Furude.
もう繰り上がりの足し算とかもできますですよ。
I can already do addition in the tens digit. Wow! Good job!
ああそうなの
Oh, is that true?
それはすごいな
It's amazing. She's so smart.
お指とかは折ってませんですよ。
I don't count on my
ち
fingers.
ゃんと暗算でできますですよ。
I can do it all in my head. The way she insisted upon that was just too cute. At some point, the nervousness I'd had about being alone in enemy territory had evaporated like it was never there at all. I had to be at least a little thankful that I met this girl.
じゃあ出発しましょうかいね
Well then, let's get going.
ひなみ沢大自然ウォッチング
It's time for Hinamizawa nature watching. The old man stepped on the gas with a great deal of gusto. Oh, we're having so much fun. Oh, smile! Smile. It is quite pretty. I see you! I love my beautiful daughter. The old man, who was apparently named Makino. Is he the same Makino that was listed as the auditor of the Honinkafuchi Guardians? Showed me around places that were all breathtaking. Even though I wasn't really here for sightseeing, I couldn't help but be impressed. First of all, this was different from the simple scenery of a city. The scenery of a charming village like this, no matter how mundane it seemed to the villagers, had a tranquil appeal to it. First, I was only releasing the shutter as part of my tourist act, but midway through I found myself taking pictures out of pure interest. Tourist traps had their own unique allure to them, but there's nothing like that here. I was especially captivated by the unspoiled nature of the place. There wasn't that whole uproar over the dam. I'd want to bring Yuki with me here some other time. I wanted her to breathe in this fresh air, as well as show her this rejuvenating verdant scenery.
こんなのが面白いのですか？
Something like this that interesting?
赤坂は変な人なのです。
You're a strange person, Akasaka.
いやこういう円筒状の郵便ポストなんて
No,
今はとても貴重だよ
these cylindrical mailboxes are rare nowadays.
どことなく漂うノスタルジックな雰囲気は渋いと思わないかな
They have a certain nostalgic air about them. You wouldn't happen to think they're elegant, would you?
ひなみ沢は楽しいですか？
Is Hinamizawa fun?
ああ 楽しいよ。
Yeah, it's fun.
退院したら、ぜひ家内を連れてもう一度来たいよ。
Once she's discharged from the hospital, I'd like to bring my wife here at least once.
その時には生まれている。子供も一緒にね。
With a child that'd be born by that time.
今は出産を控えて入院しているんだ。
Right now, she's in the hospital waiting to give birth. You shouldn't share this because now you just look like an asshole.
予定日がもうすぐでね。
She's due any day now.
君みたいな可愛い女の子だといいんだけど。
It'd be nice if they're a cute girl like you.
お客さんはもうすぐおめでたですかいね。
Sir, it seems like congratulations are soon to be in order.
そんなでいけねえよ。
Still, that's not good.
奥さん惚れ出してこんなとこに遊びに来てちゃ。
Leave your wife behind to play around in a place like this? I was momentarily at a loss for words. It was exactly how Makino said. There was no good reason for a man who was waiting for his wife to give birth to be playing around idly in this place. Did I slip up? Well...
ひなみ沢への旅行は前々からの予定だったんで。
We'd already planned this trip to Hinamizawa a long time ago.
妻の家族が付き添ってくれているから。
My wife's family is with her, so it's alright.
こんな年前から予定してたんなら、大自然ウォッチング。
Keep speaking before them today. You had this planned so far in advance.
かめ間に合わんとかいね。
How come you didn't make the sign-up deadline for the nature watching?
そんだったら、こんな窮屈な思いさせんと、綺麗な観光バスで回れたのね。
If you did, you could have toured around on a nice bus instead of being cramped up in here. It didn't seem as if Makino was actually digging for anything. But if this conversation continued any longer, it'd put some unexpected holes in my cover. I halted the conversation by pretending to take another picture.
じゃあ、最後の一番景色のいいとこさ案内しましょうかね。
Well then, for our last stop, I'll take you to the place with the best view. It was slightly before evening. The sun was still burning brightly, but a cool breeze had begun to mix itself into the air. It seemed my exploration of Hinamizawa with Rika-chan was just about done.
一番景色のいいところですか?
The place with the best view?
そんなリカちゃま、境内からの景色さを置いて他にありませんやね。
Well, Rika-chama, where else could it be but the view from around the shrine? Hearing that, Rika-chan smiled even more.
では、赤坂を僕のお家へご招待なのです。
Well then, I'll introduce you to my home, Akasaka. Huh?
リカちゃんのお家って。
By Rika-chan's home, you mean, huh?
神社ですよ。
The shrine.
古で神社。
Furude Shrine.
高台にありましてね。
There's an observation platform.
景色さ見られるんですよ。
You can see some real pretty scenery.
古で神社。
Furude Shrine. The girl who called Furude Shrine her home, Rika. If I remembered correctly, her full name was Rika Furude. And Furude was, that's right, one of the three families. Even if the Sonozaki family said to hold all the actual power, it was still one of the old houses that held some authority. No, more important than that right now was Furude Shrine. If I remembered correctly, Uishi had told me. Within the grounds of the Furude Shrine, there were the offices of the Onikafuchi Guardians. And since the land around Furude Shrine were private property, the police couldn't set foot there heedlessly. Furude Shrine, or even Uishi couldn't simply set foot into. Main base of operations for the Onikafuchi Guardians. They had been given the unexpected opportunity to enter there. Couldn't have asked for more.
楽しみです。
I'm looking forward to it.
ぜひお願いします。
Please, if you would.
じゃあ、酒々参りましょうかね。
Well, then let's get there quick.
天気も少し怪しいですからな。
The weather seems to be getting a little iffy. The sky had suddenly become overcast. wouldn't be odd if it started raining soon. The cicadas, as if trying to finish their daily allotment of chirps for the evening, cried out even more fervently. When was the last time we had any fun in Higurashi? God, it's been a long time, hasn't it? The van stopped in the shrine's parking lot. Also parked there were numerous other vans with loudspeakers mounted on top of them to act as makeshift propaganda vehicles. On the side of each vehicle was scrawled, "The dam project must be demolished. Defend our homeland to the last. No Oyashiro-sama's anger." Or a slogan of a similar kind. They gave the feeling that even without using the loudspeakers, there was enough to overwhelm any onlookers. Vertical banners were erected in various places. The contents of those banners were similar. They were all objections against the dam or crude insults towards the government. There were horizontal banners, placards, and so on and so forth. They proclaimed that without a doubt this was the headquarters of the Onagafuchi Guardians. Rika-chan, however, this hectic place was also her home.
着きましたのですよ。
We've arrived.
ただいまなのです。
I'm home. Rika-chan crawled over my lap and exited the vehicle first. Makino had noticed that I was looking at protest banners.
神社はダム反対運動の事務所も兼ねてましてね。
The shrine also has the offices of the anti-dam movement.
こんな風景もあんたらには反安保闘争みてえで懐かしいでしょ。
For you, this probably brings back the memories of the anti-security treaty conflicts back in the day. Student movements against government policies, movements that bordered on terrorist activity, were at one time commonplace, only in order to garner global attention. Students holding out in lecture halls, brawling with the riot squads that charged in. It was an age where wasting one's youth like that was widely considered a road to glory. It was slightly before my time.
私は別に活動家ではありませんので。
Not really an activist or anything.
普通に学び、普通に卒業しました。
I studied without incident and graduated without incident.
国の政策に、あのような暴力や立てこもりで対抗しようというのには、私は同意できません。
Sorry, bro. I don't really agree with the violence or occupations they use to protest the government's policies.
はあ。
Pussy boy. Oh?
あんた、それはそれで立派な意見さお持ちだね。
You have quite the nice opinion there.
政策に意見したかったら、同じ意見の政治家に投票するか、自ら政治の世界に飛び込み、正当な手続きを持って意見を主張するべきであると思っています。
If you have an opinion on a policy, vote for the candidate who shares your view, or enter the political world yourself and assert your beliefs in a lawful manner. Thud.
それが、民主政治の原点です。
That is the foundation of democracy. Chud.
それに、暴力で挑戦するなど、あってはならないと思います。
I don't think that's something you should challenge with violence. You're young and you have some fine beliefs. I saw that feeling of respect reflected in Makino's gaze. At that moment, something tugged at my sleeve.
赤坂が何を言っているのか全然わからないのですよ。
I have no idea what Akasaka is saying. Rika-chan, feeling like she was the only one who didn't understand the conversation, had a look of displeasure on her face. Her expression was so charming I had to keep myself from grinning like an idiot. It's often said that a father wants to spoil his daughter rotten. I think I understood that feeling very well.
ごめんね。
Sorry.
リカちゃんには難しい話だったね。
It was a little bit hard for Rika-chan to understand, wasn't it?
日本は平和の国だから、自分の言いたいことは平和的に訴えなきゃいけない。
Japan is a peaceful country, so you have to argue your point in a peaceful manner. Chud.
暴力で訴えてはいけないということさ。
Shouldn't resort to violence, in other words. No matter how much I explained, a girl who was just boasting about being able to carry digits over when adding things probably wouldn't understand. Probably wasn't something to talk about in front of Rika-chan anyway.
では赤坂、
Serious. So then,
僕
Akasaka,
たちの村はどうやったらダムに沈まなくなるのですか？
how do you think we should keep our village from being flooded by the dam? Even if I regretted my careless words, it was too late now. Here I was at the main headquarters of an organization, telling them their way of doing things was illegal. Preaching that violence was not the answer. The complicated feeling had mixed itself in with the respect in Makino's gaze. It was then I finally realized. It wasn't that simple. There wasn't a soul who'd argue that what I was saying wasn't correct. Using violence to get one's way was something that everybody knew you shouldn't be proud of. However, right now, Hinamizawa was in a predicament that couldn't be overcome with peaceful means alone. The legality of the Hinamizawa Dam project, through the efforts of the various propaganda campaigns enacted by the Onigafuchi Guardians, was being called into question. If they further strengthened their campaign, they might be able to suspend or change their construction plans. But that was at the most just a possibility. As the government proceeded with the construction as planned, it wouldn't be long before this place was at the bottom of a lake. If it wasn't for the unrestrained resistance of the residents of Hinamizawa, this place might already have been underwater.
僕たちはここでしか生きていけないのです。
We can't live anywhere else other than here.
都会では生きていけないのです。
We can't live in the city. The words of this remarkably young girl were all too accurate, carrying with them the screams of the hearts and minds of the residents of Hinamizawa. Of course, there's nothing I could say to respond to that. I could only respond to Makino and Rika-chan's heavy words with silence.
すみません。
I'm sorry.
よそ者が気安く言えるような問題ではなかったですね。
This isn't a problem that an outsider should lightly just poke their nose into, is it?
謝罪します。
I apologize. Makino, unsure of how to reply for a while, could only laugh pointlessly.
お客人たちのようなよそに住んでる方々には関係ねえことです。
It's nothing that concerns guests that make their home somewhere else.
ひなみざわさ気に入ってくださったんなら、お客人のお友達みんなにも、ひなみざわさ素晴らしいところだって宣伝してください。
If you enjoyed here, please tell all your friends that Himanizawa is a wonderful place, please.
そういうのが何十年、何百年と広がっていけば、この村さダム底に沈めるなんて、ふざけた計画もやがてはついえるんですかね。
Word spreads to dozens, maybe even hundreds of people, then that ridiculous plan to submerge this place at the foot of a dam will eventually fall apart. He followed that with a smile that said, please don't think much of it. Makino letting me not worry that much really was a stroke of good fortune. Becoming infatuated with the idea of making friends with a little girl had made me completely forget my apprehension at being in enemy territory. Being reminded of this right before I was going to step foot into their headquarters might have been a good thing. If we'd had this exchange in the middle of their office, there was a short-tempered youth in there that might have come at me. Thinking of how extreme they were, in the worst case my life could have been in danger. It seemed that I looked quite despondent at that moment. Makino, thinking he had said something wrong, became flustered trying to improve my mood.
本当に軽率なことを言いました。
I was a bit careless just now.
本当に。
I'm very sorry.
いいえ。
No.
そんなにお気にされないでください。
Don't worry that much about it.
今日案内してもらった村のあちこちは、どこもとても美しく、素晴らしい場所ばかりでした。
The sights you showed me around the village were all beautiful, wonderful places.
もう一度来たいと、心底思わされました。
I really do want to come here one more time.
そんな美しい村が、ダムの湖底に沈むことになれば、必死の戦いになるのもわかります。
This beautiful village is going to be submerged at the bottom of a lake. I can understand why you'd fight so desperately. I had somehow managed to use my despondent look to change the topic in my favor. After a bit, Makino had returned to his usual high spirits. It seemed he believed I completely sympathized with his point of view.
そうそう。
I know.
そんな話はこれくらいにしましょう。
Let's leave the talk at that for now.
本当にとても景色さいいところがあるんです。
There's a place around here with a really great view.
行きましょうですよ、赤坂。
Let's go, Akasaka. Rika-chan, seemingly happy to be free from all the boring and gloomy adult talk, bounded up the stone steps. There's no real need to run, but in order to catch up with her, I also darted up the steps. There were several tents belonging to the town council erected on the shrine grounds. Inside the tents were several folding tables and chairs, and a number of the older town council members were livening things up with chit-chat. They weren't saying anything incendiary like the dam project must be destroyed. It was just some relaxed idle chit-chat between local geezers. The normal sort of calming scenery. At the entrance of a shed that looked like a meeting place, there was a large sign erected with Onigafuchi Guardian's headquarters written in bold brushstrokes. That was the base of their operations. To be honest, it was a bit of a letdown. You asked what I had been imagining. It's a bit embarrassing. I thought it had been something much more dramatic. Barbed wire fences and barricades. My first impression of the place, though, was completely different from that. It looked like a simple backwater town hall. It didn't look like anything other than exactly that. The old folks who were chatting had noticed Rika-chan's presence.
リカちゃまじゃないの。
Well, isn't it Rika-chama?
もう子供はお家に帰る時間だよ。
It's time for little kids to head on home.
ここは僕のお家なのですよ。
This is my home. The old folks guffawed since she wasn't wrong. From that exchange, I could tell that this Rika Furude girl was loved by everybody.
牧野さん、その人？
Who are you? You're important enough to get a sprite? Who are you? Kichiro. Makino-san, who's that?
電話をくれた観光
Are
の
you
人。
the mayor? The tourist who phoned?
そんですよ。
That's right.
こちら村長さんに、ひなめ沢の君吉村長さん。
This is the mayor of Hinamizawa, Mayor Kimiyoshi. He finally gets a sprite! He doesn't... I don't know what I thought he was gonna look like. I imagined, he's tall and thin. I was imagining short and wide. I think I was imagining a Mario more than a Luigi. He smiled brightly, but there was no mistaking he'd be scary if he got angry. By the looks of things, this old man was the president of the Onigafuchi Guardians, none other than the Kichiro Kimiyoshi himself.
ようこそひなみ沢へ。
Welcome to Hinamizawa.
いかがでしたか？
What do you think?
静かでゆっくりしたところでしょう。
It's a quiet and relaxing place, isn't it?
ええ。
Yeah.
今日一日、美しい場所をいくつも堪能させていただきました。
I was able to appreciate a multitude of beautiful places throughout the day.
貴重な機会をお与えくださったことを感謝します。
Thankful for being granted this rare opportunity.
へえ。今時の若い方なのに、また真摯な方だね。
Even though you're one of those youngins, you're quite the gentleman.
喜一郎、
Kichiro,
赤坂に見晴らしのいいところを案内したいのですよ。
I want to show Akasaka a cool place. Thinking that the formalities between myself and the mayor had gone on for too long, Rika-chan butted into the conversation. For her to call the mayor by his first name. Felt it was a little strange, but none of the villagers seemed to mind. Girl of the Furude household, one of the three families. She's probably different than the average villager.
赤坂、こっちなのですよ。
Akasaka, over here. Rika-chan tugged at my sleeve. Not resisting, I allowed myself to be pulled over. Waiting for me was a magnificent view.
これは すごい。
This is amazing. There's an observation deck to look down on the village. They, knowing that this was the best view in the entire village, kept quiet as I stood there awestruck. I was holding a camera, but had completely forgotten to even glance through the viewfinder. This view, no matter what kind of film it was printed on, they wouldn't be able to show everything. There was a way to explain it, it'd only be what I would be able to put into words. It was just such a breathtakingly spectacular view that I struggled to find a comparison. For a while I was left awestruck. I could only stand there and wonder. A cool breeze helped abate the heat rushing through my body. A comfortable sensation also left me speechless. Rika-chan, who had been holding onto my sleeve the entire time, spoke.
僕の一番のお気に入りの場所なのですよ。
This is my favorite spot. As she said that, she showed me another adorable smile. The smile seemed very fleeting. If you ask why, it was because the view from her favorite spot would eventually be submerged under the deep green waters of the dam reservoir.
こんな村が湖底に沈むことになってるなんて信じられないよ。
Just can't believe this village is going to end up at the bottom of a lake. I said it quietly so that only Rika-chan could hear it. I regretted it as soon as I did, for those words were all too cruel. However, Rika-chan didn't let them cast a cloud on her expression. In fact, she replied with a smile.
沈みませんよ。
It won't sink.
ダム計画なんて必ずなくなっちゃいますのです。
The dam project will definitely go away. It was just like a little girl to say something like that. There was no basis for her saying so. It was just her wish.
赤坂はこの村が沈んでしまうと思っていますか？
Akasaka, do you think that this village will be submerged?
沈んでほしくなんか
It's not that I want it to be. I knew how important the dam was. I knew that it was necessary. I just didn't want to recognize the sacrifices that would be made. I agreed with the project in general, but couldn't agree with some of the details. But if it meant that this girl's beloved scenery wouldn't be taken away from her, I might be able to object to the dam. I might be able to ignore the interests of the nation, the development of Japan, all for the sake of one girl's smile. Not really much of a humanist, but no sentimental of me.
沈みませんよ。
It won't be submerged,
ダムの計画はもうすぐなくなりますですから。
because the dam project will soon go away. Her words weren't just hopes and dreams, but were seasoned with a hint of resolve. As if she was talking about an unchangeably predetermined outcome. As surely as the sun rising in the east,
もうすぐ
it'll be gone
なくなる
soon. Wanting to ask her why she believed that, I turned around.
はい、
Yes,
なくなりますのですよ。
it'll be gone.
どうしてそう言い切れるんだい？
What makes you say that?
それはなのです。
Well, you see, she seemed to want to answer, but as though unable to find the right word, she swallowed back what she was about to say.
赤坂が何をしてもしなくても、
Regardless of what Akasaka
ダ
does,
ム計画は今年で終わりになってしまうのです。
the dam project will end this year.
もう決まっていることなのですよ。
It's already been decided. That was a lie. If something like that had already been decided, then the Onigufuji Guardians would have no reason to continue existing. From my point of view, it was like they were doing nothing more than throwing themselves into an endless battle. They knew the dam project was cancelled. It would feel much more relaxed around here. This village, though, could hardly be called relaxed. For evidence of that, I just had to remember how charged the atmosphere was at the checkpoint or at the bus stop. The villagers, with their misplaced resolve, were still fighting. And this girl, even knowing the villagers' grim resolve, had already declared their victory. The villagers throwing themselves into this endless war, and this optimistic girl who said they'd already won. Contrast was somehow strange.
どうしてそう思うんだい？
Why do you think that?
何か確信があるなら私に教えてくれないかい？
If you know something that makes you that confident, could you tell me? Rika-chan stayed silent for a while, seemingly choosing what to say.
だって
Because?
だって
Because? She looked like she was lost on whether she should continue or not. As if she was troubled on whether it was okay for her to say it. That kind of expression.
決まっていることなのです。
Already been decided.
他に言いようがないのですよ。
There's no other way to say it.
決まっているって言ったって。
It's already been decided, huh? It really is just like a little girl to say something like that. Couldn't believe it was actually true. She was the only one saying such things with such confidence. My real mission that I had forgotten about during this fun-filled day resurfaced at the back of my mind. Kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Had the Onikafuchi Guardians kidnapped the minister's grandson and already succeeded in negotiating the cancellation of the dam project? Kimiyoshi actually already knew that and was just playing dumb. Is that what this girl was really telling me?
赤坂
Akasaka. The girl called out my name suddenly.
なんだい？
What is it?
東京へ帰れ
Go back to Tokyo. Oh. Huh? I wasn't only surprised at that sudden command. Ever since I came to this village, I had never once mentioned I was from Tokyo. Well, based on my accent, she might have been able to guess where I was from. What was I getting so worked up over? It was probably the sudden and complete change in her demeanor.
あなたはさっさと東京に帰った方がいい
You should definitely go back to Tokyo right away.
でないとひどく後悔することになる
If not, you will woefully regret it. The girl had been holding my sleeve the entire time. She'd been tugging at my sleeve since hurriedly dragging me over to show me this wonderful view. This was the adorable Rika-chan who I'd spent the entire day with. There's no way she could have been replaced with a doppelganger when I wasn't looking. Stop saying that word. Since she'd been holding onto my sleeve this entire time. Somehow this girl was someone other than Rika-chan. She looked like Rika-chan, but she wasn't. She was some girl I had never met before. The girl had told me in an indifferent voice that I would eventually regret coming to this village from the bottom of my heart.
それがあまりにもみすぼらしくて気の毒な姿だから
That would be an incredibly pathetic thing to see.
今のうちから警告してあげているのです
So I thought I'd warn you right now.
どうして私が後悔することになると？
Why would I come to regret it?
いちいちうるさいな
Stop whining. Couldn't believe that I was hearing such cold words from Rika-chan's mouth. Just couldn't believe it. Somebody impersonating her, using ventriloquism or something? Thinking that, I wanted to take a look around, but the girl's gaze had me pinned down, making me unable to move.
あなたの親はあなたが赤信号の横断歩道の真ん中にいるとき
You sound
ど
so
うして
old
危ない
now.
のかを全部説明し終えるまであなたの手を引っ張らないの
When you tried crossing the road when the don't walk sign was up, did your parents finish explaining why it was dangerous before pulling you back to the sidewalk?
引っ張るでしょ
They'd pull you back right away, wouldn't they?
まず歩道まで連れ戻してからなぜ危険なのかを説くでしょう。
They'd pull you back before explaining why it was dangerous, wouldn't they?
つまりはそういうこと。
In other words, it's something like that. The girl I had spent time with, Rika Furude, did not speak like that. She would speak with a cuteness befitting her age, with brief childish remarks expressing her emotions honestly. She definitely wouldn't speak with such pointed words.
警告はした。
I've warned you.
勘違いしないでほしいのは私があなたを嫌いだからこういうことを言ってるわけじゃないってこと。
Don't get the wrong idea. It's not like I'm saying this because I hate you.
死んでもいい人に危険なんかを教える必要はないのだし。
You don't need to tell somebody who's better off dead that they're in danger.
君は誰だ？
Who are you?
リカちゃんじゃ。
You're not Rika-chan.
ない。
ん？
You doing an ooh mouth? Hmm? As soon as I accused her of not being Rika-chan, she let out a strange, quiet giggle. Who are you? It was a laugh not befitting a child of her age. It was like she was possessed by something. Her change was just that total and complete. Rika-chan being attacked by some terrifying phenomenon? That occult idea came to mind without any sort of hesitation. Rika-chan is acting strange. Somebody help! Thinking that I'd yell that, I turned to where the mayor was. I immediately realized he was looking at us with a smile. That's right. To him, it looked like nothing more than me and Rika-chan fooling around. Didn't notice that there was something terrifying happening to her.
Akasaka no kowagari.
Akasaka is such a coward. Who are you? The girl had obviously grasped that I was afraid. Noticing that and calling me a coward, she laughed again. That cackling girl, approaching me in a strange manner while still laughing, lost her balance and fell flat on her face. Rika-chan fell down. If it was just a little while before, I would have extended a hand to help her up without hesitation. But now, extending a hand to this ominous girl who looked like Rika-chan but wasn't, required a bit more courage than I had at the moment.
Me.
Meep. The girl cried out thus. She then squirmed upright and dusted herself off. Afterwards, she looked around restlessly as a blank expression crept across her face. You gotta be kidding me. Was she making fun of me? That way of acting. It was as though, after being possessed by something, she had lost her memories of what happened.
冗談だろ。
You're joking, right?
リカちゃん。
Rika-chan?
Me.
Meep. I don't know if Rika-chan had heard me or not. She just cried out like that, as if questioning herself.
Okyakujin!
Hey, mister! Rika-chama too. Tea's ready. There's some snacks too, so please come and have some. An old lady wearing a smock was waving energetically from the entrance of the office. Hearing that there were snacks, Rika-chan's expression changed. Yay! Carefree smile. It was a familiar smile, the one that belonged to the embodiment of my ideal daughter. Any hint of the creepy girl that was just there, spouting sinister words, had vanished. Come on, Rika-chama. Wash your hands first. There aren't any manju here for dirty hands. I'll wash them real good. Rika-chan responded with vigor, running off to the washing station that was along the side of the office. She stopped halfway, turning around to call to me.
早く来ないから、僕は赤坂の分までおまんじゅうが食べられてホクホクなのです。
Akasaka doesn't hurry up. I'll eat his share of manju too. They're steaming fresh.
お手手を洗わない人はおまんじゅうが食べられないのですよ。
People who don't wash their hands aren't allowed to eat any manju. No matter how you looked at it, that was Rika-chan. Those words and the way she said them, no matter how you heard them, were definitely Rika-chan's. Come on now, mister. It's a bit of a shame that you're just reading without expressing your thoughts. I think that'd be much more interesting. Admittedly, it's because we're at 2.5 hours into the stream. And, well, I haven't really been talking a whole lot this stream anyway, because I'm a little tired. But also, I'm trying to finish up. I usually do more talking. I'm mostly just trying to process that Rika moment, because I did notice her voice was, different. She didn't have the eyes, though. Like when Mion and Rena get weird. Which makes my eyebrow raise of, what does that mean? The old lady urged me to wash my hands. Without any resistance, I lined up beside Rika-chan at the wash station. Splish splash. I stared at Rika-chan, intent on washing her hands properly like she had probably learned at school.
Me?
Wash them hands.
間違っていますか?
Did I do something wrong?
間違いって。
Huh? By wrong, you mean...
僕のお手手の洗い方です。
Oh, I'm washing my hands.
金シールを4個しかもらったことないです。
I only got 4 gold stickers for it.
僕はお手手を洗うのがきっと下手なのですよ。
I'm probably bad at washing my hands.
間違ってなんかないよ。
You're not doing anything wrong.
それだけしっかり洗えてれば十分だよ。
You're washing them carefully, then that's more than enough.
それだけではダメなのですよ、赤坂。
It is not Akasaka.
ちゃんとたわしを使って爪の間の赤も落とさないと金シールはもらえないのです。
If you don't use a brush and clean out the dirt underneath your fingernails, you won't get a gold sticker. I've never washed my hands with a brush.
リカちゃんは真面目で偉いな。
My fingernails gross? Much to consider. Rika-chan, you're very diligent. That's something to be proud of.
ニパー、赤坂に褒められましたのです。
I was praised by Akasaka. No matter how you looked at it, it was Rika-chan. There was no trace of that girl from before. Really, what was that sinister girl?
リカちゃん、さっきのあれはどういう意味だい？
Rika-chan, what was the meaning of what just happened now?
さっきリカちゃんは私に東京へ帰れってそう言っただろ。
Just now, you told me to go back to Tokyo, didn't you?
言いましたのですか?
Did I say that? I was at a loss for words. She didn't remember what that girl just now had said. I'd ever believe something as occult as that could happen. Like I would ever believe that Rika-chan could be possessed by that strange girl and say those creepy things.
リカちゃんが確かにそう言ったよ。
Rika-chan, you definitely said that.
Me.
Her expression told me that, despite my saying so, she had no idea. Wasn't playing dumb. She actually didn't know. Exactly what was that just now? Just as Rika-chan had, I let a look of confusion creep across my face. The two of us both looking like we had no idea what was going on must have certainly been a humorous sight to behold. I'm going to pause it there. Because we've already been going for an extra 10 minutes. I don't know how close we are to like the end of this little mini chapter. But me need to go to bed soon. Me tired. Me go to end screen. But I guess we should discuss what all we saw. At least a little bit. Because some good music. You know what? How about this? How about this from last time? Like 5 minutes, I think. And next time. I figured we were close, but whatever. Anyway, what do you want for the thumbnail? Give me the 2 CGs we got of Rika. One where she's chilling in that shed, and one where she looks so scary. Or she's more intimidating, I guess is the word. That was interesting. We got our first, I'll say, got our first, like, character that we actually really recognize with Higurashi showing up. And then Rika, and she looks different because she actually is younger. I was wondering if they were actually going to get new sprites or not. Because Higurashi looked the same, which makes sense. He's an older guy anyway. Old people barely change over the span of a couple years. Until they get to the very end of their life and then they, like, rot every day. But he looked the same, so I was like, are they gonna, like... One, I didn't even know, like, is Rika or Sadako or Rena or Neon gonna show up? I don't know. I can't predict these things. But if they do, are they just gonna look the same and it's gonna be like, yeah, that's them when they're younger, just go with it. Because how old would Rika be here? Is she like 5? Because we're, what year are we in? 78? And, should be like maybe 6. It's 4 years before the normal chapters. So I'm glad that she does seem to look a little different, or at least my memory of her, unless she is just smaller than I remembered. OG doesn't have different sprites, but yeah. But good to see her. That was interesting. I mean, that's the most notable thing that's happened so far. Well, one, actually, wait. Let me hold my tongue. Because that moment where all of the villagers on the bus are staring at us as we get off at that one stop that nobody... 5 years. Yeah, no, she's like 5 years old. Like, that when we got off at the bus stop that no one else gets off at, all those people were staring at me. And the CG seemed to suggest they were staring daggers at me. Which is, I feel like a thing... The sort of idea of the people of the village sort of having that, I don't want to say hive mind, because they're just really close-knit, so I guess hive mind, but really, like, they just, information goes around fast in a small town, I guess, assuming there's nothing supernatural happening. Like, that sort of aspect of the village sort of acting as one unified force, I feel like, I mean, the fact that we took so long to get back to this game doesn't help, but it's something we hadn't really seen in a while, I feel. Chapter 3 was a very, like, intimate story. Mostly, we spent a lot of time purely in Keiichi's head, with no other characters for a bit there. And it was a lot about Sadako. Less about Hinamizawa. And so, that sort of aspect of, like, the villagers having that weariness of outsiders, and like seemingly very easily being able to identify when someone's an outsider, and when they notice someone is an outsider, they instantly become very aggressive, is something we haven't seen in a little bit. I recall that especially in Chapter 1 being a thing. And then there's the moment in Chapter 2, was it, with when Keiichi, you know, the whole, like, sort of town there comes to protect him when those gangsters are mad at him for, what was he, knocked over their bikes? But the most interesting thing was that moment with Rika there. Because she's, I mean, I've said it repeatedly, but Rika knows more than she's letting on. And, like, she's she has that sort of silly, like, I guess, carefree, quiet attitude normally. Even when she's older in the other chapters. I say older, she's 10, but she's 5 here. Where, she's just kind of, always cheerful. Not always, but mostly cheerful. Seems pretty, just kind of not concerned about what's going on. And I've always wondered, like, how much of that is really how she feels and how much is a facade. Because a lot of the characters, we've done exploration of and learned more about sort of what's going on in the interior of them. We got a lot with Sadako. Last chapter, of course, were her very, like, her sort of very boastful, energetic, aggressiveness. Like, that's, she is that, but also there's more under the surface with her of, like, her sort of way she, like, feels about herself and feeling that she's deserving of the suffering that she's going through and all of that. We learned a lot, I feel, about Mion and sort of her insecurities in Chapter 2. And so I'd always been... And we know a good bit about Rena, too. From Chapter 1's shorter, though. I feel like Chapter 1 was a very Rena chapter. She was creepy as shit in Chapter 1. But, I mean, Rika is interesting because I never have known what's going on below the surface with her. I've always felt that she knows more than she lets on, and so I've wondered how much of her is a facade. But I don't know if that moment we just had with her was a facade slipping or is something else, because it really did feel like... I mean, we've had multiple moments in the game where it seems like someone gets possessed. Like whenever Rena and Mion get creepy and their eyes go weird, and it always seems like, oh god, Oyashiro has possessed these kids. But Rika didn't have the eyes, is the thing. And she's never had them before either. That's the thing that I've noticed, is it's never once happened with Sadako. The closest she gets is she has that one spot where she just looks hollow, and that's because of the abuse she was going through. But Rika's never done the eye thing, and she didn't do it there. Which makes it feel different from the other times that, like, Rena and Mion got weird. Because there's times where Rena and Mion get the creepy eyes and it seems like they're possessed and they know things that it feels like they shouldn't know, or like they're reading my mind. Like, it feels like they're reading my mind. And that's what it felt like was happening with Rika, but her eyes didn't change. Which I'm sure is an important detail. Because the eyes sort of glazing over with Rena and Mion always made it feel like sort of they were kind of becoming like a drone, like possessed in some way. But with Rika there, it felt much more like she was not being possessed as much as a second person was coming out. But that person, I don't know how to word it, but it did not feel like some other person was possessing Rika. You know? Like, it felt like there is just a second person in there, and they spoke to us. Which maybe that's the case. Does Rika have DID? I don't know. I can't predict these things. I also don't know enough about DID to say. I'm woefully uninformed. I don't even know if that's what this game would be about. But I think it's definitely meaningful that when her voice changed, that's another thing, is that when Rena and Mion get creepy, they like talk creepier, but it's the same voice. Rika had an entirely different voice. She sounded like a grown woman. So that's weird. And I don't know what to make of that. It really... I know everything about everything. Well, yeah, you're the person here who's played the game. So... I only have to spit out things that I think, and then you're either nodding your head like, yes, that's right, or you're going, she doesn't know, she doesn't know. But, yeah, it gives me the feeling that instead of being possessed, it feels like as if there is just two people within the same body with Rika. Is that other person Oyashiro-sama? Maybe. I don't know. There was a whole thing about that. I could believe it. That's like, I mean, just because of lack of knowledge, that's where my head goes. And then, but you know, if that's true, that calls into question, like, how much is Rika behind the events of these chapters? Is she our big bad? I don't know. She doesn't feel like it. Or at the very least, she has Oyashiro-sama in her. Oyashiro-sama is the big bad, and maybe she doesn't. I mean, I'm going to say this young Rika probably doesn't even know about these sort of things, but does older Rika in the other chapters know? And, like, Rika, she gets gutted at the end of chapter 3 just out of nowhere. What does that all mean? I mean, we've had the whole thing, too. A running theme of they were talking about doppelgangers in chapter 3 a lot. And that sort of idea of someone being in a place they shouldn't be able to be in is older than that. With Takano, you know, she was supposed to be dead before Watanagashi, and yet we hung out with her. And Mion, it was also, we saw her outside of our house in chapter 2 when she was also apparently dead before that. So, you know, the idea of duplicates existing seems to be a running theme. Like, there is that other Keiichi. We killed Sadako's uncle, but then he's alive, although we never saw him. Like, I don't know. And, like, Akasaka even dropped the term doppelganger this stream when Rika became weird, but he was like, it can't be a doppelganger. She's been holding my sleeve this entire time. Which, you know, sort of makes you wonder if the doppelganger thing is, you know, they can maybe if this is like a thing, if doppelgangers are a thing in this story, if they really can just sort of take the place of the other seamlessly like that, maybe they can. But Rika, I lean towards that not being the case with Rika. It really does feel like, I don't know, it just feels like there is another person in there, maybe. That's where my head is going. I have no evidence to believe that over any other particular theory, but it's where my head's going. It's all very curious, isn't it? We'll have to see, I suppose. I did not expect Rika creepy moments, though. That has placed Sadako as she is squarely the sole one to not feel like she gets possessed. She just has horrible trauma. It really feels like to me that, like, Sadako is like the center of the universe or something in this story. Like, is she our main character, really? Hi, I'm glad you chose to read the VN. It has so much more depth in the anime adaptation. You feel how much Ryukishi cares about what he wrote. I've been greatly enjoying it. Well, enjoying. This story makes me so sad at times, especially Chapter 3 did. But it's very good. I haven't watched the anime because I wanted to experience the story through the visual novel. Because my friend, who's in chat there, Bone Jam, he's read it, and he wanted me to stream it and play it because he very much advocates for it. Told me it was very, very good. You are the main character. I don't feel like the main character. But I've been greatly, I think it's been great so far. It's very well written. I just have to think. I'm going to watch the anime out of curiosity after I finish the visual novel, just because I'm curious. But I can't help but look at it and be like, how do they fit all this in an anime of that length? Like, you need way more time to do all this. They gotta cut everything. So I'll wait to watch it until after I finish the visual novel. Just so I can get the full experience. It's very in-depth. The characters are great. I love all of them very much. They're all my beautiful daughters. That includes Oishi, by the way. But I'm going to conclude it here. We've been running long enough. We're already 30 minutes over time. Your arc is learning to stop playing this game and pretend this never happened. Yeah, we're waiting for that, aren't we? But I'm going to conclude it here. So thank you all for coming to the stream. We'll be streaming this again. Of course, it's every Monday, same time. So want to catch more Higurashi, just come here in another week. We stream. We took a break. We took a week from Tomodachi, but Tomodachi is returning this week. So this Wednesday, we'll be doing Tomodachi. We're actually entering what I'm calling part 2 of Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. We're entering our part 2. All the previous streams, the last 10 episodes, were the prologue. But I'm calling, we're going out of the prologue with the next stream, so I hope everyone's prepared for that. And then Friday should be more GTA 4. I'll see you all then. Good night.